Normal trainers could only train specific kinds of pets, but he had enough cultivation sites for the pets of any family. He could even find a lot of pets that had already gone extinct according to the Federation's records. For real. Mia was rather delighted, her suspicion had already faded away. A space vortex was instantly opened, and a humanoid pet walked out, a profound undead aura was disseminated. The pet was soon restrained. It had the head of a hideous goat, apart from that, its torso and lower half resembled those of a human, except that it had a brown tail which seemed draconic in nature. Nightmarish demon of greed. Suiping slightly raised his eyebrows as he saw the pet. He knew it was quite a rare demon pet. It might be nigh impossible to find one of their kind on the entire blue planet. That pet also had a star-state bloodline, similar to the Ocean Emperor's. However, it was only in the middle phase of the void state at the moment. It depended on training to find the chance to unleash the potential in its blood. Noticing how Suiping had correctly identified the creature, Mia dropped the last bit of her doubt and asked hopefully, "Boss, can it also be trained?" There was a marked change in Lane's expression. He could not but interject, "Mia, our academy's monthly exam will be held soon. This nightmarish demon of greed is your strongest pet. This store owner would never have the means to compensate you if it's ruined during the training. It will affect your performance in the monthly exam." Mia didn't look at him. There was worry in her eyes, but the worry was soon replaced by determination. Since she had already made a decision, she would have certainly taken all the possibilities into consideration. However, based on her impression of Suiping and her observations, she was willing to take her chances. She would definitely distinguish herself in the monthly exam if the pets that Suiping was to train would be as tough as Little White. Not only would she surely pass the exam, she might even be able to make it to the top 5 or even the top 3. Mia stared at Suiping and asked nervously, yet hopefully, "Boss, will Little Goatie's training be as short as that of Little White?" Little Goatie? Suiping was at a loss for words. It was true that girls would usually choose to give weird names to their pets, like how his sister named her pet, which was as black as coal, as Snowball. He focused his attention and nodded. "More or less. It'll take half to 1 day." Mia felt relieved. "I have some other pets. How long will it take for you to finish training all of them?" Suiping instantly remembered the system's quest and put on a smile. He said, "You can fetch them tomorrow if there are no more than 20 of them." While stunned for a moment, Mia couldn't help but ask, "About the effect of the training?" "It'll be the same," replied Suiping casually. Mia gazed at him for a moment and nodded, before she said, "No problem. I'll come fetch them tomorrow." He opened a few more vortices as he spoke. One battle pet walked out after the other. Almost all of them were void state pets. Including the Frost Blood Star Dragon and the Nightmarish Demon of Greed, 5 of them had star state bloodlines. She truly had a rather intimidating battle pet roster. Not even Nihwofeng had that many powerful pets. Suiping counted the pets and announced the price. "The cost will be 1.2 billion in total." Mia took a deep breath and transferred the money to him. She used a limitless card issued to the Lei Fa family. Suiping instantly heard the system notifications after seeing that the 1.2 billion was transferred and transformed into energy. The target customer has consumed 10 million energy points in the shop. The quest, "No orders shall be missed," has been completed. Please choose your reward in the next 5 minutes. Suiping was thrilled, since he remembered that the reward was a middle-rank guide to enlightening. He asked Mia, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" He was implying that she should consider leaving for the day if the answer was no. "Boss, please take care of them." Mia looked at her battle pets affectionately. Lane had quite the grim expression as he gave Suiping a cold look. He blinked as he considered other things. "All right." Suiping nodded and asked Joanna to lead the pets to the pet room first. Mia withdrew her gaze after all the battle pets were taken away, then glimpsed at Joanna's back. She asked Suiping, "Boss, is she really your employee?" "Of course. We have a contract, replied Suaping without thinking. Mia was rendered speechless for a moment. She glanced at the pet room again, but Joanna didn't bother to look back at her and simply closed the door, blocking her senses. Mia was quite surprised at how well defended the shop was, especially right after realizing she couldn't detect what was inside the pet room. Even such a door had been installed with a protective barrier. She glanced at Suaping, then said after a moment's hesitation, "Boss, my babies, are all yours." "Your babies?" Suaping replied with a friendly smile, "No problem. I'll take good care of them." Mia found Suaping's smile quite odd, but she couldn't quite figure out what was weird about it. She could only say, "I'll be on my way." "Okay." Mia looked back frequently as she made her way out of the shop, but she eventually left. Lane glared at Suaping but didn't say anything, he simply chased after her. After they left, Suaping came to a corner of the shop, summoned the system, and started drawing the lottery. "Stop!" He was quite excited as he looked at the roulette wheel that was still spinning. Suaping was quite excited. All the items on the wheel were middle-rank guides to enlightening. If only I could get all of them. The wheel stopped soon after and Suaping raised his head, only to find that the pointer stopped at the middle-rank acceleration guide. The system's voice echoed, "Congratulations, the host has successfully drawn the middle-rank acceleration guide." Suaping then saw the guide be ejected, it then fell to his storage space. Suaping was quite curious. "Acceleration guide? What's the effect?" He used it without hesitation. The guide soon faded from his storage space and was completely gone. A tremendous amount of information then flooded into his head. The knowledge transfer contained countless pictures and felt like an aurora cluster, each of them contained a lot of knowledge. Suaping was completely devoted to them. It wasn't until a long time later that he had finally opened his eyes. When he did, strange brilliance radiated from his eyes. "This guide to enlightening is really good." Suaping was shocked and delighted. He didn't expect he would be that lucky to be awarded with the powerful guide to enlightening. "Accelerate!" Whoosh! Suaping dashed forward, then the world slowed down in front of his eyes. He appeared 10 meters away in the next moment. He noticed that the dust in the air had merely moved a bit more than 0.00001 millimeters. The place was almost still. The approaching Tang Ruin and Zhong Lingtong froze once they noticed him. Their raised feet didn't reach the ground until Suaping stopped moving. Both were rather stunned, not expecting him to suddenly appear elsewhere. "Awesome!" Suaping was quite excited. He hadn't fully grasped the guide yet, but he had no doubt that it was an extremely powerful skill. Such a skill would enable him to super-accelerate his body. Time would flow differently for him in an accelerated state. What is time? Some claimed that it was the speed and the motion of objects. Time would technically not exist when an object was in absolute stillness. Suaping had just been in an accelerated time and space due to his high speed. Even though he could have simply used his usual flash movements to appear 10 meters away, it was a completely different situation. If he used both the flash skill and super acceleration in a battle, it would virtually allow him to flash to 3, 4, or even more locations in the same span of time that he flashed once in the past. This skill is perfect for ambushing and assassinating. I feel like I can feel the law of time in it. Maybe I can comprehend the mysteries of time if I perform it more often. Suaping thought, excited by the prospect. Time was one of the greatest enigmas. He might even be able to bring back the dead and live an eternal life if he mastered the law of time. Maybe not even the Star Lords have such ability yet. It wasn't hard to imagine the law of time's superiority. Tang Ruyan approached Suaping while looking at him curiously. She had the impression that he had just performed a flash movement. "Why are you running inside the shop?" Suaping could only feel delighted. While looking at Zhong Lingtong who was right behind her, he chuckled and said, "We've just moved to a new planet named Rhea. I'll give you some spending money later. You should sign up for language classes as soon as possible to learn the common tongue. that way you'll soon be able to communicate with others. Okay. Zhongling Tong nodded obediently. Tang Ruyan rolled her eyes and said, "Did that woman laugh at me just now?" I didn't know what she said, but I could see it in her eyes. Humph. I'll definitely get back at her when I learn the common tongue. How are you going to do that? Su Ping glimpsed at her. With your mouth, rather than your skills. Tang Ruyan was choked for a moment. Then she said gloomily, to make a winner's speech after I do beat her. I'm a lady, why would I lash at her like a vixen? Su Ping didn't know what to say. It won't be possible for you to defeat her in your entire life if you don't work harder. This is the Federation, a place teeming with geniuses. You may be something on the blue planet, while basically anyone you meet here can teach you a lesson. You should keep a low profile and study harder. Don't be defeated 8 times in 5 minutes again. You're embarrassing me. Stunned by his answer, Tang Ruyan could only glare at him. How do you know that I was defeated 8 times in 5 minutes? Ah, I got it. That woman must have told you that. Damn it. I knew she would speak ill of me. She was stating a fact. Or, are you trying to deny it? You, from this moment onwards I'll call you 85. I will only stop until you beat her and prove that you're worthy, said Su Ping casually. Tang Ruyan, Zhongling Tong looked at her sympathetically as she heard their conversation. Not only had she been brutalized, she had even lost her name. How pitiful! But on the other hand, 85 was not a bad name. She repeated the name over and over in her mind after coming to that conclusion. The more she said it, the more agreeable she found it to be. Su Ping didn't talk to them anymore, deciding to head outside and examine his new neighborhood. He had a lot of mixed feelings. This Federation planet was truly different. He saw that the streets were extremely packed, with magnetic levitation cars and motorbikes everywhere. He looked up and there were many bright blue, translucent roads interwoven in the sky, while many cars flew to different destinations. All the nearby buildings had pointed caps, their architectural styling had an European feel. Su Ping was rather surprised, as he had never seen such pet shops before. Could pets also wear battle equipment? Su Ping didn't rush to train me as pets, after all, there was still plenty of time. He looked back and said to Tang Ruyan, 85, stay in the shop. I'll ask around to find out where you can learn the common tongue. Stop calling me 85. Tang Ruyan burst into fury and resisted the humiliating nickname. You'll soon become 83 if you don't work harder. Defeated 8 times in 3 minutes. Tisk, Su Ping chuckled and left the infuriated Tang Ruyan behind as he made his way for the battle pet armor shop. While he was on the way, Su Ping looked around and saw another pet shop that had an area of only 500 square meters. There's another pet shop on this street, but not as large as mine. Seems like the system relocated my shop to a business street. However, that shop had 3 floors, the compound area considering all floors was rather remarkable. There were currently a dozen men in the armor shop's lobby that Su Ping went to. The receptionist by the door was a fair-skinned woman with purple hair and pointy ears. She wasn't as beautiful as Tang Ruyan, but was pretty in her own way. Su Ping had learned the basics of Rhea thanks to the information he had acquired from the previous region scanning, which included the population, astral power density and local traditions. The purple-haired receptionist was exactly one of Rhea's locals, her hair color was natural. Su Ping found that the shop's interior was arranged like an enormous gallery. There were framed and laminated plates hanging on the walls, which held small and exquisite items. Some of them looked like weapons, and some were like stones. Su Ping was surprised by what he had found. He looked around curiously. A shopping assistant had soon noticed Su Ping. She walked over and said with a smile, "Excuse me, sir. Which type of pet equipment are you looking for? I can give you some recommendations." Su Ping just happened to be observing a silver scale that was embedded in one of those frames. He asked, "Is this also counted as pet equipment?" Although stunned for a moment, the woman replied with a smile, "Yes." "What pet is it for? How do you use this?" asked Suaping curiously. The woman was once again stunned, as it truly was an amateurish question. With a flash of confusion in her eyes, she then sized him up and noticed his foreign attire, completely different from the rein fashion. She then realized that he was most likely some bumpkin from an obscure and far-flung planet. Even though the idea crossed her mind, her face never betrayed her. She continued with a casual smile. "This is a 4-star, Class A equipment. It can resist fate state attacks from the darkness and fire classes. If your opponents happen to be from any of those two kinds, you'll probably remain undefeated if you equip this." Jenna spoke with vague condescension, feeling that it would be an eye-opener for that bumpkin. Suaping was quite astonished. It could block fate state attacks? Even though it could only resist the darkness and the fire classes, it was still remarkable. "You said that this is a 4-star Class A artifact. Then, is there better equipment? If there is, can it resist star state attacks?" asked Star State curiously. Jenna replied with a casual smile. "Of course. There are rare pieces useful against Star Lord State pets. However, you can only find such advanced equipment in Sylvie's big chain shops." Suaping was definitely shocked. He didn't know it was possible to buy Star Lord State equipment. Didn't it mean that he could become invincible if he had enough money? It was true that money was everything. No wonder the system was so greedy. Suaping continued with his questions. "By the way, can the battle pet warriors use the equipment?" Another stupid question. Such a telling question was enough to discover the person's ignorance. Jenna wore a helpless smile and explained, "Pet equipment is different from that of humans, and has different requirements. This one, for example, is only suitable for dragons, because it has to be activated by dragon aura and blood. This too, the equipment is structured according to how energy circulates in dragons, not even sub-dragons with thinner dragon bloodlines might be able to use them." Jenna didn't go any further, as the bumpkin couldn't possibly understand it anyway. She felt rather discouraged as she thought about the situation. "Might as well take a break rather than wasting my time here." "I see," Suaping then understood. It seemed that the recent equipment was different from the treasures found in relics, which were usable to both humans and pets. After all, pets were wild beasts and also cultivators in ancient times. Humans were the only masters in the primordial age, the other races were equal to them. "Can I try it?" Suaping asked the woman again. Jenna frowned. She could see the curiosity reflected on Suaping's face, but she dropped her smile and said, "The price for this Silver Dragon King armor is 3.2 billion. You have to pay a security deposit of 300 million if you want to try it." 3.2 billion. Suaping was startled. Not even the best fate state battle pets in his shop could be sold for such a high price. It wasn't any different from robbing. Suaping remembered his personal account. Part of the Blue Planet's taxes and revenue belonged to him since he had just established a bond with the Blue Planet, officially becoming its lord. He instantly took out the Green Lord badge and sent his thoughts into it. He then found his personal account by following the general directions. The Lord badge was like a multi-function superphone, it was quite practical. Suaping then found that his personal account had been opened in the Bank of Universe, which was the main bank in the Federation, which had branches on every planet. His identity had also been registered, since the account was opened with the Lord badge, and his account had more permissions than regular accounts did. Tisk, tisk. I don't have to worry that the bank will go bankrupt after I withdraw my money now, Suaping thought. He instantly went to see the account balance. He saw a serious amount of zeros and quickly counted them, only to find that he had 128.9 billion. He was quite surprised, as he had never seen such a massive amount of money. However, as he thought that he could share half of the revenues of the Blue Planet, he realized that 100 billion was too small a number. He instantly asked the reason. Soon, he learned that the money was from the recent trade taxes on the Blue Planet. Survivors were busy rebuilding the subcontinent district because of the recent catastrophe on the Blue Planet, and the economy was still on the decline. The 100 billion of income was due to the frequent transactions of assets that were for the reconstruction efforts. The nearby Jenna was stunned to see Suaping's Lord badge, which still looked like a green crystal. Her eyes opened a bit further because of the shock. She looked Suaping up and down with fear. This young man is a lord? Even though he was a lord of the lowest tier possible, he was still the master of an entire planet. To become a lord, the minimal requirement was to reach the star state, unless it was a special situation. However, even after considering the special situations, only Fate State warriors could become lords, and their job was only temporary. The security deposit is 300 million, right? Suaping had stopped tinkering with the Lord badge and was about to pay the security deposit. He wanted to find out what the battle equipment was like. Jenna came back to her senses. She was rather frightened, not expecting that she would anger a lord. She said with a pale-looking face, "Well, I didn't know you were the lord of a planet. Your identity waives any requirement for security deposits. In fact, no security deposit was needed, even if Suaping weren't a lord." She had simply made up the requirement on the fly because she didn't think he could afford it and didn't want him to waste her time. Suaping was stunned for a moment. He instantly realized what had happened, so he said, "Then let's try it." Jenna felt equally guilty and ashamed after noticing how Suaping didn't burst into an outrage. She said respectfully, "This way, please. I'll have someone fetch it immediately. We have professional test rooms." She bowed and led the way as she made the introductions. She signaled another direction while Suaping tagged along, then she asked someone to fetch the Silver Dragon King armor. The test room was extremely spacious. It was behind the shop, and it looked like a small open-air stadium. However, Suaping could feel a sturdy barrier which had been placed somewhere in the room. He didn't think that any star state creature could break it through. Another pair of men were doing some testing. They then summoned their battle pets. One of them is an ocean state bat dragon. It was a sub-dragon with a body length of only 8 meters, but a wingspan of almost 15 meters. It's covered in a set of well-fitted armor that protects its vitals without affecting its movement. The pet was also wearing a silver pointy helmet that covered its head. That was a great eye-opener for Suaping. He didn't know that the pets could use that. If he bought some of the good battle pet equipment, wouldn't his Inferno Dragon and Dark Dragon Hound be significantly strengthened again? "Hello, my lord. This is the Silver Dragon King armor you picked." Jenna then took over the silver scale from her colleague. The scale was no longer laminated, and was sent out as vague energy waves. It was also covered in a silver light sheen, which was the overflowing energy it contained. "My surname is Su. Just call me Mr. Su," said Suaping, who didn't want to expose his identity as a lord, that way he could avoid unnecessary trouble. "Okay, Mr. Su." Jenna nodded respectfully with a completely different attitude. Even a Tier 5 lord had much more wealth than a common employee such as her can imagine. Suaping accepted the silver scale, weighed it in his hands, and asked, "How should I use it?" There was no contempt in Jenna's eyes anymore. She completely showed her professionalism and said gently with a smile, "Mr. Su, the equipment has already been activated. All you need to do is summon your dragon pet and ask it to unleash dragon aura." Suaping instantly summoned the Inferno Dragon as instructed. The majestic, brutal aura of a dragon was spread out, making Jenna and the other members of the staff become pale. The bat dragon that was testing the equipment almost fell from the sky. It looked at the Inferno Dragon with terror in its eyes. Suaping didn't expect it to be so influential. He quickly asked the Inferno Dragon to contain its aura. The Bat Dragon's master also looked at the Inferno Dragon from a distance. He slightly changed his expression, not daring to say a peep. Mr. Lord, just stick the Silver Dragon King armor to your pet and ask it to release dragon aura." Jenna's face was pale, she stuttered because of the Inferno Dragon's natural and ferocious aura. She had seen many powerful battle pets in the past, but none as intimidating as that one. Once he heard the indications, Sui Ping threw the power-imbued silver scale to the Inferno Dragon's abdomen and gave it a command. The dragon instantly unleashed dragon aura. The next moment, the silver scale seemed to have been revived as it made contact with its abdomen, producing a glaring glow. The scale softened and turned into liquid, which was then spread over the dragon's body. By the time the light faded, the dragon had a set of silver armor on, or rather, a layer of silver scales. The silver scales covered the Inferno Dragon's own scales, which were red, dark, and golden, spreading all the way to its neck. Only the wings and limbs remained exposed. Sui Ping was rather astonished, as the battle pet equipment was like a second skin. That armor, paired with the dragon's own scales, would allow the pet to resist even when going against fate-state beasts. Any discomfort? Sui Ping instantly asked the Inferno Dragon. The Inferno Dragon said in a low voice, "Not at all." Sui Ping realized what it meant. It seemed that the equipment was quite comfy. Sui Ping didn't linger for long after figuring out what the battle pet equipment was for. He simply asked the assistant to help him remove the equipment and then left. As for purchasing, Sui Ping intended to buy something, but not the Silver Dragon King armor. After all, that shop was just one he had randomly chosen, it was obviously not the best shop on Rhea. He preferred the idea of acquiring the best battle equipment possible, preferably some with Star State deterrence capabilities. However, Sui Ping didn't think that the equipment of that level would be sold easily. It was probably only available in famous auctions, or more prosperous areas. He was really looking forward to it. The accumulated astral coins that couldn't be converted had been useless to him thus far, all because he couldn't buy any good stuff even if he had money. Legendary items were seldom for sale, most of them were only bartered among legendary warriors. It was hard for the regular forces to get them. Even if they did get the items, they would only offer the items to the legends to merely impress them. In the Federation, however, beings could become stronger if they invested enough money. Sui Ping had suddenly felt like it wasn't a bad thing to be the Lord of the Blue Planet. Otherwise, it would have been exhausting for him to make as much money. I wonder what's happening on the Blue Planet. I should ask someone when I have time, Sui Ping thought. It was then that he decided to visit the pet assessment shop. There were several customers inside the shop. Sui Ping entered and asked one of the receptionists. As it turned out, that shop could perform comprehensive tests on pets and then gauge their combatability based on test results. The combatability index was used to indicate the strength of a battle pet. It wasn't always accurate, nor correct, but it was an important reference. Sui Ping was quite curious, so he decided to try with the Dark Dragon Hound, only to find that the result was quite similar to the information on the system, with an error of only 1.8. It can quantify the pet's performance. Sui Ping was astonished by the Federation's advanced technologies. No wonder it had colonized the entire universe. The device that Mia used wasn't able to show combatability. It could only detect other data. This scanning device can show combatability, but it's too large. The system's pet identification is much more convenient, Sui Ping thought, and was awed by the power of the system again. Humph, snorted the system in Sui Ping's head. Sui Ping chose to ignore the peeper and wandered the streets. He then went to the other shop. After all, the difference between a pet shop in the Federation and his own was worth investigating. The pet shop was a thriving business. Sui Ping went to look around and found that it offered similar services as his own did, although it wasn't as good as his shop in terms of facilities. First of all, there were a lot of battle pets available in the shop. If any customer wanted to buy one, they had to make an advance payment and an appointment, all intended so that the shop could eventually ship pets from its base. As for the training, their instructions would store the pets in space devices, transfer them to the training base, and ask the customers to fetch them when the training was completed. There's a lot of pet food available. They must be part of the mainstream, popular pet foods on the planet, or even the entire Federation. But they're not very old, nor are they of a high quality. I should restock the shelves correspondingly. Sui Ping examined the myriad of pet foods in the shop. After having traveled across many dimensions, he was able to easily tell that the pet foods were mediocre. They could fill their stomachs, but they could hardly improve their combat abilities. After the business investigation was over, Sui Ping left and returned to his own shop. He had gathered a lot of intelligence on his trip, not just the matters about the other shops, but also the intelligence about his relocation. All the sellers in those shops thought that his shop had been there for years, but it had never sold well, it had yet to leave a deep impression on them. Obviously, it was achieved with the magnificent power of the system again. Jumping from the blue planet, appearing on a business street on Rhea, all of it while onlookers saw that as a normal occurrence, nobody reacted when it came to his neighborhood. Sui Ping was terrified of the ability. If the system intended to kill anyone, it could probably wipe out or even tamper with the memories of everyone who knew the victim. The power was beyond Sui Ping's comprehension. The system chuckled and spoke proudly, "I'm glad you realize how strong I am." Sui Ping, back at the shop, Sui Ping told Tang Ruyan and Zhong Lingtong what he had found about the language learning companies. There was a common tongue crash course nearby, but it was quite expensive. Sui Ping took them to a bank of the universe's subsidiary nearby and applied for a bank card for each of them. Then, he found another use for the Lord Badge, which could endorse that they were the natives of the planet associated with the Lord Badge. As a result, the time needed to show their ID badges and confirm their identities were saved, and they got 2 cards rather quickly. They were the natives of the blue planet, but the blue planet was too underdeveloped and their information was never uploaded to the federal database. They were unregistered residents. Once everyone had an account, Sui Ping transferred 500 million to each of them, so they could make use of it as they saw fit. Then, he took them to the language school and paid the tuition fees, which were slightly more than 100,000 astral coins. The amount represented an ordinary person's yearly wages in a year or even longer. Still, it was almost nothing in Sui Ping's eyes. Sui Ping left them in the school after paying the tuition fees, not before asking them to return when they became fluent in the common tongue. Then, Sui Ping returned to his shop, ready to train Mia's pets. At the same time, in a lofty skyscraper that looked like glass with spiral patterns, one could see the view of half the city while standing at its top, which was close to 1,000 meters high. It was also a landmark of Wofet, one of the 7 most prosperous cities in the camp continent of Rhea. There was a luxurious mall on the lower floors of the skyscraper. Conversely, there was a famous hotel at the top. It was a famous hotel that only entertained those who were both rich and powerful. In one of the suites, Mia, who had changed into casual clothes, threw herself into the soft cushion. Her petite body had almost sunk in its entirety, making her feel as if she were lying on a cloud. Phone in hand, she was talking to another person while using her astral power to send bits of fruit salad to her mouth. She was smiling adorably at the moment, not nearly as cold as she had acted in front of Lane. "How has it been on Rhea? Did you buy the vast sky thunderous dragon you wanted?" There was a lazy and casual female voice on the other side of the phone who also sounded rather young. Mia smiled and said, "Sis, I just came here. I haven't looked for it yet." "You'd better hurry then. The sophomore's monthly exam will be held in 2 weeks. A lot of people from our family will be watching the exam." "You must try harder," said the lazy voice, who remembered something else and added, "Is the Ryan family entertaining you during your stay on Rhea? If you can't find the vast sky thunderous dragon on your own, just speak to the master of the Ryan family in my name and ask him to give you one." Mia stuck out her tongue and said, "I secretly came here without sending word to the Ryan family. I didn't even bring the guards that Mom arranged for me. I prefer relying on myself whenever I can. You also know that I shouldn't get too involved with other families, or deal with things related to how my marriage would be arranged." She looked frustrated as she talked, but then she perked up and said, "By the way, I ran into a wonderful pet shop when I was looking for pet food today. Let me tell you, the shop looked plain. Its decorations weren't bad, but not too surprising. However, the boss of the shop sold me 2 7,000-year-old heaven frost crystal fruits. 7,000-year ones." She sounded quite excited when she talked about So Ping's shop. The other speaker, however, was silent for a moment, not continuing until the other was done. "Don't think too much about the future yet. You have a chance to change your fate now that you've been admitted by the Amir Royal Academy. I'll send a recommendation so you can enter the conduct committee in your junior year. Then, you'll have enough friends to support you so you can make your own decisions." Stunned for a moment, Mia became solemn as she said with glittering eyes, "In any case, I'll try to graduate as scheduled." She gave a bitter smile and then pouted her lips. "But it's too hard for me to enter the conduct committee, it's full of geniuses like you." "That's fine. I'll put in a good word and help you. Don't underestimate yourself," the lazy voice said with more calmness. Then she changed the subject, "Enough about that. Did you just say that a pet shop sold you 7,000-year-old heaven frost crystal fruits?" "Sister Offit, I left all my battle pets in the shop. I'll be checking the effects tomorrow. You can take your own battle pets if their results are just as good. It's also great that the shop's training prices aren't high, definitely not high for you. It'll be great if your battle pets are further strengthened." "What? You left all your battle pets in that shop?" The girl named Offit was dazed for a moment and then became serious. "That's too reckless. Something must be wrong. Weren't you afraid that the shop would use any special tricks?" Mia ducked her head on the couch. "I thought about it, but I did tell the boss my family name. I don't think he would dare to mess with our family, right? By the way, I unfortunately happened upon a classmate today. He's from the Rein family. He kept me company and nearly started a fight with the boss." Mia told her sister about her encounter and then concluded, "I don't think the boss would be bold enough to deceive both me and the guy from the Ryan family, but he was a bit of an eccentric." "Right, there's something else. The shop is so weird, I couldn't even beat the employees there." "Hey? Did you fight?" Offit suddenly turned cold and aggressive upon hearing that. Mia shook her head quickly and said, "No, we practiced in a virtual combat arena. There were 2 clerks in the shop. The first one, whom I only defeated 8 times in 5 minutes, was already shocking enough. She was just a clerk. The second one was even more unbelievable. We set up the matches with equal level and the same battle pets, and we fought for 3 hours straight, but then I was suddenly defeated the moment the boss came out with my pet after the training. It's obvious that she went easy on me. I couldn't have been a match for her if she hadn't. Isn't it crazy? I didn't see her use any battle tricks or skills, but her every attack was so right on time as if she had known what move I would make. It was almost like I was fighting you." Mia was rather amazed as she retold the experience. Yes, she had felt exactly the same when she practiced with Offit, the one who was on the other side of the call. She had always had a hard time dealing with Offit's attacks and could never display her full strength. Even if she went on a mad rampage, she still wasn't able to touch her, because she was nowhere nearly as skilled as her sister. However, her sister Offit was a well-renowned warrior, whereas the woman who had sparred with her was only an insignificant clerk bossed around by So Ping. It was hard to imagine that a person as strong as her would be willing to work as a clerk. The phone was silent for a moment. "Are you serious?" said Offit suspiciously. After all, what Mia said sounded too far-fetched. A shop able to teach a void state battle pet 3 powerful skills after only 3 hours of training, with clerks who could easily beat Mia, making her think they were as strong as her sister? Such a shop couldn't possibly exist. Even if it did, it couldn't have been found on a small planet such as Rhea. It could have been found on the Federation's capital planet, or the supergiant planets supervised by those in the Ascendant state. Ria was like a pebble in the presence of a crystal when compared to those places. Mia shook her head. Sister, I'm not lying. It's real. I'll check the training effects of my pets tomorrow. You can come and have a look yourself if their progress is as good as Little White's, or maybe even practice with the clerk. She's really good. Offit was silent for a moment before she said, we'll talk about that later. I'm sure that something is wrong with the shop. They may have used some sort of deception, don't fall for their tricks. You've already surrendered your pets, so we can only let things take their course. Examine carefully when you claim them tomorrow. If anything happens, humph, they'll regret ever being born for messing up with the Lei-Fa family. No, you're just being paranoid, sis. I think the shop might be owned by a major family and is used to train their juniors. I say this because the owner of the shop looked rather awe-inspiring. I think he's probably a student in one of the 5 most renowned academies. But I don't know which academy he's from. Mia didn't think that Suo Ping's shop was a shady business as her sister claimed. There was also that moment, when Suo Ping had a conflict with Lane, his eyes and the aura he released left a deep impression on her. She didn't think he was just a normal battle pet merchant. You've been training in the family for too long. You don't know how treacherous the world can be. Offit heaved a helpless sigh. Enough about that. We'll find out the result tomorrow. Seeing that it was impossible to convince her sister, Mia could only say, okay, I'll be careful. At the same time, inside a certain extravagant battle pet arena, several men were seated in a private room. Lane had taken the center seat. Mia had excused herself and returned to her hotel as soon as they came out of Suo Ping's shop. It wasn't easy for him to find chances to meet with her. However, none of the plans he had prepared proved useful and he suffered a major setback because of Suo Ping. He had failed to intimidate and humiliate the latter in front of Mia by using his family name. Fu *king bastard. Ryan quenched his fury with liquor as he watched the battle pets fight. It was then that someone opened the private room's door. A young man entered with careful steps upon seeing how pissed Lane was. He said in a low voice, "Young master, we found that the shop has been in operation for 3 years with a license. It was relocated from a distant solar system. The shopkeeper is not a local, although we still haven't found out where he's from." Lane asked coldly, "Why not?" "His files are classified. If we want to investigate, we would have to use the family master's authority," replied the young man nervously. Lane narrowed his eyes with an awful expression. He remembered the moment when he was about to burst into an outrage inside the shop. Suo Ping had simply looked at him, and left him awed. It was then that he felt that Suo Ping wasn't ordinary. As it turned out, the guy truly came from a powerful background. That made perfect sense. How else could he have presented 2 7,000-year heaven frost crystal fruits and sell them so cheaply? Even though he hated Suo Ping, he was more worldly than Mia and knew that Suo Ping's background couldn't be simple, based on the heaven frost crystal fruits, the training, and Mia's defeat by Suo Ping's gorgeous employee in the virtual combat arena. Not everybody could have hired an employee who was as beautiful as her, not to mention one who could defeat Mia. Mia was a sophomore student in the Amir Royal Academy. She wasn't exactly one of the honor students in her class, but every student in the Amir Royal Academy was a genius amongst geniuses. It wouldn't be a bad result if 4 or 5 students of an entire planet were able to be admitted by the 5 most renowned academies. Damn it, damn it! Lane's anger was only intensified. Not just her talent, the look of Suo Ping's employee had already made him greedy and jealous. She was even more beautiful than Mia, whom he was busy pursuing, and yet she was being bossed around by Suo Ping, which made him feel exasperated. A young man with purple short hair made a brutal proposal. "Young master, we learned that the kid is an Ocean State warrior. However talented he is, he hasn't grown up yet. Should we hire an assassin?" Lane narrowed his eyes and slapped the young man in the face after hearing that. The young man was quite stunned by the slap. The brutality on his face was replaced by confusion. Are you trying to get me killed? Lane burst into an outrage and roared, do you not see the background of the shop? The conflict between me and him is just verbal, but things will get physical once we piss off the family behind him. My entire family may fall if the guy's family is supported by a Star Lord. Do you want my family to be destroyed? The young man was dazed at first, but he sweated hard and paled as the thought sunk in. He slid off from the couch and knelt on the ground. Why, young master, I didn't mean it, not at all. I didn't think carefully about the matter. How could I possibly? He was too scared to talk. The Rein family was the sky on that planet, and Lane was exactly one of their descendants. Lane slapped him again and yelled, get lost. The young man quickly crawled away and shuddered on his knees, not daring to raise his head. The other sidekicks were also too shocked and on edge to talk, fearing that their master would vent his fury on them. Lane was grim. There were reasons why he was wary of Suaping, and the biggest one was that the latter's behavior made him feel like the force backing that shop owner was too powerful for him. After all, Suaping remained expressionless when he heard the name Lei from Mia, as if it meant nothing. Anyone on the dozens of planets in the Zero-Prun solar system would have been shocked to hear the name. Suaping might have kept his cool out of ignorance if he were new to Zero-Prun, but the intelligence report said he had been there for 3 years already. Anybody who had stayed for that long should know by then how powerful the Lei family was. His only conclusion was that Suaping's origin was on Par, or was even superior to that of the Lei family. Although Suaping had embarrassed him and ruined his plans, he wasn't at all intent on retaliating. Rather, he wondered if he should go to Suaping's shop and apologize. *T. Lane was even more infuriated by that sudden thought in his head. The whole thing was too embarrassing. Inside the shop, Suaping returned to the shop and then headed to the demigod burial with Joanna, taking Mia's many battle pets and his own pets, including the Inferno Dragon and the Dark Dragon Hound. Mia had entrusted him with too many pets to train, he couldn't take them all at once, so he separated them in 2 batches. After all, he would never leave his own battle pets behind when he went on training trips. The demigod burial was an advanced cultivation site anyway, good enough to train the little skeleton and the others. Even the Star State battle pets could be well trained there. After all, the Star State wasn't a big deal on that site, most of the god warriors were at that level. There were also major gods above the god warriors, who were the big hots in the demigod burial. Gods of rules were above the major gods. Joanna's original self was exactly one of them. Joanna cleared up his doubts. Suaping found that the major gods in the demigod burial were equal to the Star Lord warriors in the Federation, and the gods of rules were on par with those at the Ascendant State. It meant that Joanna's original self would be an Ascendant State big shot in the Federation. The Ascendant State was the apex in the entire Sylvie galaxy, they were experts who supervised major solar systems. Superior gods were further above. Suaping suspected that the superior gods in the demigod burial might not be stronger than those living in the Archean divinity. It was like the ocean state being considered legendary on the blue planet, while it was commonplace in the Federation, no longer considered anything special. The title rank was only meant to address apprentices in the Federation. "I'll take you to the Archean divinity when you're ready," said Suaping to Joanna on her divine mountain. Joanna had previously captured a lot of void state beasts for him, thus completing one of the quests issued by the system. She had been acknowledged as an outstanding employee and given the privilege to travel to any world. Suaping was willing to help if she wanted to go to the Archean divinity and find a chance to reach higher levels. "Okay." Joanna nodded. Suaping didn't even consider asking Joanna for her divine spring. The divine spring was remarkably effective. The training would have been completed immediately if Mia's battle pets were soaked in it, and their combat ability would soar. However, the divine spring was so precious that Joanna was reluctant to even offer it to Suaping, much less to nurture random pets. It was condensed divine energy, just like how Nai Huofeng had gathered astral power with formations. Some of the god warriors didn't even have such great resources. Soon after, Suoping reached a dangerous place full of dark elements. The place was dim, with dark clouds and black fog looming and roaring up above. Many demons and undead beasts could be heard, howling in the deepest parts. The god warrior who had been tasked by Joanna to escort Suoping was rather grim-faced once he laid eyes on the forbidden land. He solemnly said to Suoping, "Mr. Su, please be careful." "Okay." Suoping waved goodbye and asked him to stay and wait for him to return. Then, he flew in with all the battle pets. Mia's battle pets were obviously reluctant to go in, they were frightened by the environment, and their instincts told them that they would die if they went in. However, they couldn't resist the order given by Suoping via the contract. They could only wail in their hearts, while their loyalty to Suoping took a serious plunge. The undead energy is quite dense. "Little skeleton, do you like it here?" said Suoping to the little skeleton with a smile, while he flew above the forbidden land while riding on one of the Inferno dragon's shoulders. The little skeleton looked around and nodded at Suoping. It did love the place. "I think prey is coming." Suoping didn't expect to meet something so quickly. The enemy also seemed to have a star-state cultivation. "I'll take care of this one. It'll be a good chance for me to check my ability." Suoping didn't ask the little skeleton nor the other pets to help. He still had not sensed the limits of his combat ability yet, ever since he became a legendary warrior. He had previously killed the Lord of the Deep Caves with one attack, and he hadn't exerted his full strength, at all. Suoping didn't intend to merge with his pets this time. He would rely completely on his own skills and battle expertise. The little skeleton and the Inferno dragon were rather confused. Mia's pets, on the other hand, were delighted to hear that. They had never been fond of Suoping to begin with, they would be happy to simply watch the battle. They didn't care whether Suoping lived or died. They would gladly see stupid masters die when they chose such dangerous places. Whoosh! All of a sudden, the rays of light between the sky and the earth were gone, and then a shadow that was wreathed in black fog flew close. The shadow had the curly horns of a demon and a brawny body. Its lower half body was that of a bull, yet its upper half was that of a bronze-skinned human. A demigod? Or maybe a sub-god? The demon saw Suoping and sensed a magnificent divine power in his human body. Its eyes gradually became bloodshot. "You're bold enough to trespass. You'll be my dinner." It quickly took action, and the space around Suoping quickly squeezed him. Divine light flashed in Suoping's eyes and lightning burst out. He didn't suppress the aura in his body anymore, all his energy surged out. The splendid divine power and astral power moved as one, and the laws of lightning and annihilation that he had grasped shined in his hands, causing spatial ripples. The power of laws. How is it possible? The demon narrowed its eyes in shock after seeing the manifestation of laws in Suoping's hands. It had sensed that Suoping was so weak that it could kill him with a look. However, such an insignificant being had mastered the power of laws. And it wasn't one law, but two. Die! Suoping unleashed his maximum strength. He concentrated the power of laws in his sword and charged at the demon. The sword art with which he had used to kill the Lord of the Deep Caves was again displayed. Lightning Prison, Catastrophic Void Sword. Thousands of lightning bolts instantly appeared, shining among sword auras. It was like another heavenly tribulation. The demon was shocked and scared. It suspected that Suoping had been pretending to be weak so that it would lower its guard. These gods are truly vile. The demon cursed, having to use all its strength to fight back. Space collapsed when they fought. The aftershock of their battle attracted the attention of many other creatures in the Forbidden Land. Haha! Two idiots are fighting a life and death battle. That's the aura of the prison defending bull demon. Who has it pissed off? Just fight. It'll be great if they wound each other badly, that way I can take advantage of both of them. Many creatures were observing in secret. Some were chuckling in delight. Mia's pets were right behind them, all of them trembled with fear as they saw how unstoppable Suaping was. Is he really our master? He's as horrifying as a devil. Boom! Suaping roared, fully activating the solar bulwark by burning his vitality. Burns started to appear on his body. He also showed the dark body he had acquired during the Golden Crow trials, which attracted the surrounding dark energy. He was radiating both golden and black light, which made him look frightening. A boom resounded, Suaping tore apart the void, cutting apart the secondary space and sending his sword aura into the tertiary space. It swiftly moved and reached the demon's head even faster than a flash. The flash was at the average speed achievable inside the secondary space, which was too fast for creatures below the star state to follow. However, the star state lives had keen and powerful senses that could detect approaching objects in the secondary space, so that they could either dodge or fight back. However, it was beyond the demon's expectation that Suaping's sword aura would stab its way out of the tertiary space. It brushed past the demon's face and caused a wound. The demon was quite tough, too. It had so much battle experience that it reacted in time and managed to keep its head over its shoulders. I'm not as strong as when I merge with the pets, but I can still fight. Light burst out of Suaping's eyes as he activated the astral power in his cells. He stepped out with the boost of divine energy and performed the skill he had just acquired thanks to the middle rank guide to enlightening super acceleration. Suaping swooshed out. Everything around him slowed down and came to a halt. He saw that the demon's eyes were widening with disbelief, but its body had also slowed down. Boom! He passed through the secondary space and sprinted as fast as possible. He emerged in the primary space again after having reached the demon and slashed with his sword. The demon's eyeballs almost popped out. Its body then emitted a dense black aura. Blood gushed out when Suaping's sword aura tried to cut into the black aura. The flow of time around Suaping flowed normally again. The demon's head was surrounded by boiling black fog. Then, the black fog suddenly dispersed, revealing a huge wound on the demon's neck, so severe that its head was almost falling. Fire was still burning on the wound, and many electric arcs were still crackling. What the heck? The demon covered its neck with fear. It suddenly escaped without saying a word, going straight into the tertiary space with fog rising from its body and disappearing from Suaping's eyes. Suaping had the intention to chase it, but he felt as if his body were bound by a web made of a black power of laws. He was unable to quickly break free. The web was also corrosive, it ate away the energy he released. The demon had already vanished completely by the time Suaping broke free from his entanglement. Suaping could only retract his energy after seeing that. The effects of his overuse of strength were evident once the fight was over. He vomited blood with a pale face. He quickly became old. His hair was dry, and his skin was devoid of luster. It looked like a withering rind. I had to burn my vitality and try my best to fight against a star-state enemy, and I was still unable to kill it. A weak Suaping leaned against the Inferno Dragon while analyzing his findings related to his combat ability. He could have easily killed the demon if he would have merged with the little skeleton and the Dark Dragon Hound, all without exhausting himself. His combat ability in general was somewhere above that of the average star-state beings. Suaping was rather satisfied with the result. I absorbed the astral power accumulated for 1,000 years, but I still failed to reach the void state. Just by following logic, it should have been easy for me to reach the void state with my understanding of space's mysteries. I can see the bottleneck and know how to break it at any time. Suaping closed his eyes. He could immediately step into the void state if he so wished. However, he was unwilling to do that. He thought that his attainments weren't abundant enough yet. I'll probably become stronger if I can understand the law of space and break the void state bottleneck with it. Then, once I perfect the law of annihilation, I should be able to fight experts at the top of the star state. Suaping thought, not realizing how terrifying his idea was. Phew! A myriad of shadows were flying over at the moment. Many of them were fate state demons. There was even a star state demon. Sui Ping rolled his eyes, knowing that the scavengers had arrived. Time to work. Sui Ping took a deep breath and squeezed his cells again for more astral power. He sat in midair and asked the Inferno Dragon and Mia's pets to attack. There was a boom, space around Sui Ping was shattered and a dark tentacle penetrated his head. Haha, a cold laugh reverberated in the area. But the laugh came to an abrupt halt, as Sui Ping was resurrected right where he had been, just after being torn apart. He had also been restored to his prime, youthful status. Well, the demon who had ambushed him was completely bewildered. Let's go. Sui Ping commanded coldly from where he was. Mia's battle pets, which had considered whether to attack Sui Ping while he was weak, were shocked and confused to see his strength completely replenished. They could only shiver when he yelled at them. They went ahead and charged at the demon beasts around them. Sui Ping then cast skills on them to arouse their fighting spirit. Time flew quickly. A new day had soon arrived. Mia was at the moment wearing a brown dress. She came from the end of the street while whistling a delightful tune and soon found a specific signboard. Pixie Pet Store. She smiled and moved to enter the shop. As she was reaching the door, she found a fat purple-furred rat lying between the two statues. The rat raised its head and looked at her when she walked over. But then it clearly lost interest in her and lay down again, enjoying its sleep. She had never seen such a rat before, although she didn't pay it any mind after a quick glance since its level was rather low. Mia saw Sui Ping in the lobby. Her eyes glittered as she said, "Boss, I'm here." Sui Ping turned around and nodded at Mia. "Good to see you again. Your pets have been trained." Really? Even though she was ready for it, she was still quite delighted to hear a positive reply from Sui Ping. Without further ado, Sui Ping asked Joanna to bring Mia's battle pets. The pet room was opened. Joanna, with her blonde hair and her unique vibe, walked in front, followed by the currently shrunken battle pets. All the pets moved soundlessly and aggressively. Their eyes were sharp, and they emitted a ferocious vibe even though they were small. Mia felt how the vague power of the contract became clear the moment she saw her battle pets. Once again, she found a sense of familiarity in them. The battle pet's appearances reminded her of Little White when Sui Ping had brought it back the day before. The training had indeed achieved similar results. With a racing heart, Mia asked, "Boss, were all of them trained?" "Yes. You can have a feel for the results in the test room," said Sui Ping, and then led her there, planning to keep her company as she conducted her testing. Mia held back her excitement. She touched her battle pets and followed Sui Ping to the test room. Sui Ping didn't say anything, he simply asked her battle pets to demonstrate their powers. Mia was surprised to see the new skills that her battle pets were using. She was so thrilled her pretty face was flushed. She suddenly remembered to examine her pet's condition with her scanner while they were performing the tests. The scanner readings had once again shocked her. They were similar to Little White's from the day before. All her battle pets had been significantly strengthened in a single day. Her total combat ability was almost doubled. That's so awesome! She felt like she was dreaming. The skills and abilities her battle pets showed would make passing the monthly exam a breeze. Her target should be the championship in the monthly exam. If I could become the champion of the sophomore's monthly exam. She was excited at the thought of that. If she did, her performance would definitely be known by her family, and she might receive attention from her grandfather, the leader of her family. All the battle pets were soon tested. Sui Ping asked Mia, "How about it? Are you satisfied?" Mia nodded quickly and said, "Yes, I couldn't be more satisfied." "Boss, you're truly wondrous." Sui Ping chuckled and said, "You're welcome to come again for more training." Mia nodded again and smiled. "I will, but I'm going to the Thunder Dragon continent in a day or two. I've come to Ria mainly to capture a vast sky thunderous dragon to make up for the shortcomings of my pet roster. Since you've trained my pets so well, I'll try them out on the field once I reach the Thunder Dragon continent." Sui Ping had already won her trust, so she openly discussed her itinerary. She wouldn't have easily disclosed where she was going. Ping, however, didn't show any reaction after hearing that. He nodded and said, "Good luck." Her mentioning a thunderous dragon made Ping suddenly think of the thunder ocean fruit that was in the system store that week. The fruit could possibly help him grasp a law of thunder. However, it was quite expensive. It required 86 million energy points. He had earned a lot of energy from the catastrophe on the blue planet, but he had spent a lot of it, too. His balance was around 50 million. Adding the 10 million energy points he had just earned from Mia still left a 26 million gap. Only 2 days to go before the store was refreshed. The item would be replaced by something else. Ping didn't think he could make it, but he was still intent on trying his best in the last 2 days. He had already mastered one of the laws of thunder, but one could never learn enough laws. Besides, the laws of thunder consisted of plenty of elements. He had to grasp a complete path if he wanted to reach the ascendant state later on. Grasping a complete path involved the full comprehension of all the laws related to a certain class, or comprehending one of the laws to the highest level, so that it could be perfected and isolated as an independent path. Ping would be one step closer to that goal if he could understand a second law of thunder with the thunder ocean fruit, and both laws of thunder would become more powerful together. In any case, Ping didn't want to miss getting the thunder ocean fruit. However, he would get a headache when he realized he had to make 26 million energy points in 2 days. Where can I find a gullible and rich customer? Mia kept her pets and said goodbye to Ping. Ping considered ways to make money while he minded the shop. After much deliberation, he decided that the fastest way to make money was to ask Joanna to catch pets in the demigod burial and sell them. However, he could only sign contracts with void state pets. He might be able to strike a temporary deal with early fate state pets at the risk of getting himself killed. He might have a difficult time selling void state pets quickly on Rhea, where few people knew him. After all, the local pet shops were also selling beast kings. The other shop on the street sold void state pets, too. There were even fate state pets available. It's so hard to make money. Do I have to do a part-time job as a flyer distributor again? Ping couldn't help but moan. It was really hard to make 26 million in 2 days. Footsteps were suddenly heard while he was brooding. Let's check this shop. Maybe it's available here, said a stranger in the common tongue. Ping raised his head and saw 2 young men walk into the shop. One of them had brownish hair while the other had purple hair. The latter had the typical look of a Rhea local, whereas his partner was clearly from another planet. The 2 of them looked around and saw Ping on the couch, so the young man with brownish hair asked him, "Hello? Are you the boss?" Ping had a weird look in his eyes. He wondered what they wanted to do to the beast. Is this intended to capture a beast? If so, we have powerful pets available for rent. They can help you defeat the beast and put it to sleep. Ping elaborated, as every businessman should adapt to the occasion. He didn't have any sleep medicines, but he had other ways to put them to sleep. Actual hypnosis would be even more effective. Just as I thought. The purple-haired young man said, shaking his head in disappointment as he was about to leave. The brown-haired young man was also about to leave the shop with regret, but then he saw how confident Ping was. He couldn't help but ask, "Pets for rent? What level are they?" "Depends on what you need. If the beast you intend to capture is below the fate state, I have pets that can take care of it for you," said Ping. He didn't introduce the pets level. After all, the little skeleton and the dark dragon hound were both at the 9th rank, and the 2 customers were apparently in the ocean state. They would have probably left immediately if they heard that only 9th rank pets were available. The purple-haired young man stopped and looked at Ping in surprise. They can take care of any beast below the fate state. The brown-haired young man was also stunned. He quickly asked, "Are you saying that you rent fate state pets?" Renting and selling were different. Some pet shops sold fate state pets but wouldn't rent them, because beasts of such rank were among the best and were extremely valuable. The loss would be huge if they were rented and killed due to inappropriate commands. Even if they weren't killed, some customers would exploit them so much that they would be heavily wounded or traumatized when they were returned. Some diseases were hard to cure or even detect. Only the interstellar chain shops would rent fate state pets on that planet, and only trustworthy VIPs could apply for them, no one else could. The two young men didn't expect that a random shop on that street would rent such advanced battle pets. They're not fate state beasts, but they can take care of any beast below the fate state, explained Suaping. He wasn't familiar with life on planet Rein nor with those two customers yet. If they wanted to rent pets, he would only give them the little skeleton or the dark dragon hound, because those two were good when it came to survival. They would be able to escape even from fate state beasts. The little skeleton in particular, it wouldn't be easily killed even when facing star state beast attacks. After all, they could always outrun the two customers if they couldn't outrun the enemy in case the situation got out of hand. It was impossible for the customers to threaten or command the pets with the contract, because Suaping always used the temporary contracts he purchased from the system for rentals. The temporary contracts wouldn't unleash the contract fire, and pets could attack the customers at any time if they issued commands that went against their will. They're not fate state beasts. Both of them were stunned by Suaping's explanation. All the excitement instantly left their eyes. The purple-haired young man frowned. We want to capture a vast sky thunderous dragon, preferably one in the advanced phase of the void state. It's the most powerful dragon found on Rhea. Are you sure your pet can take care of that? As long as the target is alone, replied Suaping with a smile. Both of the customers were stunned, not expecting Suaping to be that arrogant. As soon as the target was on its own? Does he mean that his rental pets can beat a vast sky thunderous dragon in a solo battle? Is that so? What pets do you have? We'd like to take a look. The purple-haired young man raised his eyebrows angrily. The vast sky thunderous dragon was a popular beast found on Rhea. It was a source of pride for all the natives. The young man wasn't happy with Suaping's lack of respect. After hearing that, Suaping summoned the little skeleton from the pet room. Both of the customers were dazed by the stumbling newcomer. The purple-haired young man couldn't help but ask, "Is your pet for rent this lowly skeleton?" He was infuriated, feeling that Suaping was teasing him. Suaping was going to introduce the pet to them, but then became cold when he heard the question. He was fine with people doubting him, but he wouldn't allow anyone to doubt his pets, especially the little skeleton that had been fighting alongside him all this time. Don't underestimate it. It can easily take care of both of you, said Suaping coldly. The purple-haired young man laughed angrily and said, "Is that so? I'd like to find out what skeleton can easily take care of both of us. Not even the purple bone evil king skeleton is capable of doing that. Your pet isn't even a purple bone evil king skeleton, is it? Is that so?" Suaping narrowed his eyes, with coldness surfacing in his eyes. Whoosh! The wobbling little skeleton received Suaping's telepathic message. It instantly stood straight and was ready for battle. The aura it unleashed lowered the temperature in the lobby. Hey! The brown-haired young man was about to persuade his partner to stop arguing with the boss and simply leave the shop, but then he saw the skeleton getting ready for battle. He was stunned, then he narrowed his eyes, as he sensed a horrifying aura that froze his blood. Whoosh! Bang! 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 Something flashed, and the astral shields that the brown-haired young man had quickly raised were completely shattered. In the next moment, a cold finger pointed at the purple-haired young man's forehead. The finger was white, devoid of flesh, with a pointy fingernail at the end. The purple-haired young man was about to continue his mockery, then his face froze and his pupils contracted. He was terrified as he looked at the floating skeleton. He felt as if his blood had turned into a large clot when he looked at the crimson fire in the skeleton's eye sockets. There was a sense of infinite brutality, coldness, and aggression from the bouncing flames. "Be boss! The nearby brown-haired young man had seen nothing but a flash. He turned pale once he noticed the skeleton was right in front of him. Then he said to Suoping, "It's just a misunderstanding." Suoping gave an indifferent order to make the little skeleton stop. Whoosh! The little skeleton flashed back to where Suoping was, and the fire in its eye sockets was gone. It wobbled again, as if it would fall apart at any time. However, its rustling bones sounded like the tolling of funeral bells to the two customers. Both of them swallowed with nervousness. "Do you still want to rent it?" Suoping looked at them indifferently. "If you do, let me tell you something first. You'd better not use my pet to do any bad things. In other words, you must treasure it as if it were your own pet. You will only suffer if you ask it to attack when there's a high fatal possibility." The customers, old and new, looked at each other in bewilderment. The minor injury on the purple-haired young man's head had already been healed, but his face was still pale and his legs were shaking. The brown-haired young man's back was sweaty. He was slightly relieved to see that the little skeleton went back to normal. He said to Suoping, "Yes, we do. However..." Hesitating for a moment, he continued, "Boss, how much will we have to pay to rent your pet?" Suoping instantly looked for the little skeleton on the system's rental menu and saw that the rental rate was 9.2 million astral coins per hour. 10 hours would cost 92 million astral coins. Suoping didn't know what to say. The price was quite unsurprising. It wasn't high, but definitely not cheap either. After all, not everybody could afford a cost of 200 million astral coins per day. The price to rent that pet for a few days was enough to buy a void state battle pet. In other shops, a void state battle pet would only cost 1 billion astral coins or so, unless it was extremely rare and of an exceptional quality. If this were the case, it would be much more expensive. 9.2 million astral coins per hour. Suoping reported the price to them. Both of the customers were stunned, as it was only half of what they had expected. They thought the total would cost at least 20 million. After all, the renting price was always higher than the selling price. Who would rent a battle pet unless they really needed it or there was an emergency? "We'll rent it," said the brown-haired young man immediately. The purple-haired young man didn't say anything. He looked at the little skeleton by Suoping's feet with fright still lingering in his eyes. "For how long?" The brown-haired young man thought for a moment and confirmed with his partner. "Well, 1 day is probably enough." The purple-haired young man nodded. "Our captain is ready, 1 day will be enough. We don't need more preparations if we got such a powerful pet to help him." "Sure." Suoping simply sent a telepathic message to the little skeleton, telling it to run off if anything went wrong, and that its top priority was its own life instead of the customers'. The little skeleton nodded, showing it had understood. Suoping was quite reassured about the little skeleton, which seemed silly but wasn't dumb at all during battle. The temporary contract would make the pet mildly loyal to the customers who rented it, but it could only guarantee that the pet wouldn't attack them. The pet could attack them without being punished by the contract if they did anything outrageous. "Thank you, boss." The brown-haired young man smiled and thanked Suoping. Then, he said, "We are planet pioneers. I'm Abbott, he's Algernon. Sorry for our impudence just now." "It's okay." Suoping was also slightly surprised. Relevant information he had obtained earlier from the scanning popped up in his head. Planet pioneering was a popular profession in the Federation. Their job was to explore the desolate planets, develop those primitive planets and capture rare beasts. In general, they were the adventurers in the Interstellar Federation and could be seen anywhere. "Sorry." The purple-haired young man, whose name was Algernon, also said to Suoping. Seeing no anger on his face, Suoping nodded and accepted his apology. "Take care of it," said Suoping. Abbott looked at the little skeleton and nodded. "We will." Suoping didn't say anything else. He finished the paperwork with them and accepted their money. Then, he gave a temporary contract to Abbott. Infuse your astral power and stick it to the pet's head. It's slightly different from the rental contract lock we used in the past, remarked Abbott curiously. Is it a new model in the Federation? Suaping didn't reply. Abbott didn't ask further. He infused the contract with astral power as Suaping had instructed and signed a temporary contract with the little skeleton. Well. Abbott was stupefied the moment the contract was signed. His eyes widened with disbelief as he looked at the little skeleton. Algernon became anxious and quickly asked, "What's wrong?" It wasn't until 3 seconds later that Abbott finally came back to his senses and asked Suaping, "Boss, is the pet only at the 9th rank?" "Hey!" Algernon almost couldn't believe his ears. Suaping nodded. "I hope you treat it well." Stunned, Abbott mumbled, "How is it possible? A 9th rank beast has just..." He couldn't believe that he and his partner were so awed by a 9th rank beast that they began to sweat like crazy. It was beyond belief. Algernon was so shocked that he looked at the little skeleton with disbelief. He had already detected its level and thought that it was merely pretending to be stronger than it actually was. He thought that the pet was pretending to be weak and then it unleashed its terrifying strength. As it turned out, what he detected was the skeleton's real level. Was he almost killed by a 9th rank skeleton? Algernon was stumped. He was a planet pioneer with abundant battle experience. His strength was definitely above average in his level. Yet, he was almost killed by a battle pet whose level was lower than his. It was almost unbelievable. Suaping actually frowned with worry after seeing how shocked they were. The little skeleton was undoubtedly an ultra-quality divine pet. Even though the combat ability boost was just mediocre in the system's eyes, the pet was definitely great to other people. Would those two customers maliciously take the little skeleton away? Suaping looked at the little skeleton and saw the shallow red light in the little skeleton's eye sockets. He sensed what it was thinking and became relaxed. He was still connected to the little skeleton despite the overriding temporary contract. It meant that the little skeleton still knew who its real master was. That was the difference between an ancient pet contract and an astral pet contract. The former was much more effective. Remember to return the pet on time, or you will have to pay a 3-fold compensation for every hour you exceed, Suaping warned them. The customers finally remembered that they had barely rented the pet for 1 day and it was already theirs. Time was ticking. "Boss, we'll be on our way." They quickly said their goodbyes to Suaping. Suaping nodded in response. Suaping suddenly had a weird thought as he watched the little skeleton being put away by Abbott, wondering if Abbott's own pets would be bullied by the little skeleton. "I can still detect it. It's truly remarkable." Suaping could vaguely detect that the little skeleton was right next to Abbott. He was quite amazed. Suaping finally remembered the Ocean Sovereign when they left. He was still being confined to his shop. He finally had an idea about how to punish her. He would train her and keep her in his shop as a pet for rent. It would have been too easy for her if he simply sold her, especially if she ran into a good master. The system's voice suddenly echoed in his head when Suaping was thinking that, "It's been detected that the best available beast on this planet isn't available in the host's shop. The shop must capture the best beast on this planet and turn it into a tame pet in 24 hours. Quest: collect the best astral pet in the business area. Quest description: it's been detected that the best astral pet in the business area is the vast sky thunderous dragon. The host must capture a vast sky thunderous dragon with mid-level aptitude to keep it in the shop. Time limit: 24 hours. Reward: 1 pet aptitude book." Suaping was quite astonished. To hunt a vast sky thunderous dragon? Wasn't it exactly what the two customers from earlier were trying to do? Mia also seemed to have paid a visit to Rhea to capture a vast sky thunderous dragon. Wait, what about the pet aptitude book? I had never seen such a prize before. The pet aptitude book can improve the aptitudes of your pet by 1 level, explained the peeper inside Suaping's head. Suaping's eyes almost popped up. Aptitudes could be improved by 1 level? What if the pet's aptitude was already at a high level? What level would they reach? The ultra level is above the high level, said the system casually. Above the ultra level is the Chaos Multiverse ranking. The beasts on that rank are talented geniuses in every universe. Suaping's pupils contracted lightly, he was having difficulty breathing. The Chaos Multiverse ranking? It wasn't hard to imagine how hard it would be to enter the ranking. After all, it was already extremely difficult to get ultra aptitudes. Even the little skeleton, a pet that was much stronger than any other pet of its level, only had a high level rating. He had trouble imagining what the ultra level was like. As for those on the Chaos Multiverse ranking, they were definitely brilliant beings that could lead an era. Suaping gradually recovered from the shock, eventually feeling bitter when he remembered the quest requirement. Capture a wild vast sky thunderous dragon with mid-level aptitude? Wouldn't that be too hard? It was already extremely hard for him to raise a pet's aptitudes to the mid-level. Among all of Mia's battle pets, the nightmarish demon of greed she cherished had a mid-level aptitude. It was only in the middle phase of the void state, but its combat ability was close to that of the fate state. The rest of her battle pets only had low-high or low-middle level aptitudes. The ratings were already remarkable enough by Blue Planet's standards. Mia, being a descendant of the Lei-Fa family, must have asked professionals to train her battle pets, and yet their aptitudes still weren't high enough. A beast caught in the wild without ever being trained would rarely have an inborn mid-level aptitude. Please don't just give me a mission I can't accomplish. Suaping cried to the system. The system replied casually, I have never given you a mission you can't accomplish, unless you're not trying hard enough. Is that so? Suaping's eyes glittered upon hearing such a reply. Did it mean that the system had detected a wild vast sky thunderous dragon with a mid-level aptitude? If that was the case, he would find it even if he had to turn the planet upside down. Wouldn't it be all too easy if he could find the beast with nothing but hard work? He prepared everything and closed the shop. He was new to the place anyway, so he wouldn't be missing much income even if he closed the shop for a day. Let's go. Suaping used his Lord badge to log into the local shuttle platform and called a vessel to his current address. The Lord badge was quite convenient. It was essentially a portable, intelligent butler that could take care of his every need. It also had high-ranking permissions and could hide his real information. A flying shuttle arrived at Suaping's address soon after. Suaping touched the door with his finger, his fingerprint was scanned and his identity was confirmed. He didn't need to say anything to the driver. In fact, there wasn't one. It was an automated shuttle that would take him to the address he had entered. Even though it was his first trip on Rhea, he had already memorized some of the basic information thanks to the system's earlier scan. He was in Wofet at the moment, one of the 7 most prosperous cities on the Camp continent. There were altogether 13 continents on planet Rhea, which was 48 times larger than the Blue Planet. 9 of the continents were suitable for humans to live on, and Camp was one of them. Its economy wasn't bad, it usually ranked 5th or 6th. The other 4 continents had rough environments which were populated by beasts. The only humans living there, except for a few normal citizens, were the planet pioneers who were hunting on those wild continents. The Rumbling Thunder continent was one of those 4 continents, home to the vast sky thunderous dragons which were famous in all of Zero Prun. The continent was the 2nd largest and the least populated among the 13 continents. Even the planet pioneers rarely stayed there, they would usually live in other places and take military planes to the continent when necessary. It was said that an enormous barrier had isolated the Rumbling Thunder continent from the outside world. The vast sky thunderous dragons were active in groups all across the Rumbling Thunder continent. They attained the complete combat abilities of their kind the moment they reached adulthood and could potentially cause significant damage to human settlements if any of them ran loose. Suaping was currently taking the shuttle to the airport that scheduled flights to the Rumbling Thunder continent. The final destination of those flights was Krolin Island. Most of the visitors on the island were hunters who were there to try their luck. They could sell a vast sky thunderous dragon for $1 billion if they ever caught one, which was enough for most people to enjoy the rest of their lives worry-free. Half an hour later, Suaping reached the nearest airport. It was vast, new, spacious, and looked like a spatial base. Everything was new to Suaping. What attracted him the most was the super telescope on the ceiling, inside the airport. He could see the starry sky when he raised his head. He didn't know whether it was a projection or the real sky, but it was splendid and awe-inspiring. After following the omnipresent signs, he found a waiting line to buy a ticket. The ticket to fly from that place to Krolin Island had a cost of 180,000 astral coins. Although the average income was higher on Rhea, a Tier 3 planet, most workers were unable to earn such an amount in an entire year. As expected, the ticket alone had shut the door to the poor. Suaping paid for the ticket without any hesitation and later went to the corresponding waiting area. There were VIP chambers that charged extra, but he chose not to get one. He had also bought an ordinary ticket. A first-class ticket would have cost him 580,000 coins. In any case, it was the same destination. It wasn't a lot of money for Suaping, but he preferred frugality whenever possible. He would have flown there on his own if personal flying wasn't banned on Rhea. Suaping saw all kinds of people in the waiting area. All of them were human beings, but the Federation was too far-reaching and had colonized too many planets. Given the different planetary circumstances, the skin, eye, and hair colors of those people had evolved differently. Apart from the locals of Rhea whose hair was purple, Suaping had seen people with brown hair, golden hair, black hair, pink hair, and even green hair. Green hair was quite an unforgettable color. Suaping recognized that some of those people were from other planets, all thanks to the compiled information he had acquired from the system scanning. He had noticed that he was also being observed when he found a seat. He looked around and soon realized why. His appearance was quite special too, as nobody else had the handsome face of a person from the subcontinent district. The plane arrived soon after. Suaping had his ticket checked and boarded on the plane along with the other passengers. His seat was in the middle of the plane. There were 5 seats in the row. Such a plane was bigger and more comfortable than the ones he remembered. 2 guys and 2 girls took the seats next to him moments after he sat down. One of the girls seemed to be around 18, and the other was 25 or so. The 2 guys were of a more mature age, one of them was in his 30s, while the other one had a short beard and appeared to be close to 40. All of them started talking as soon as they sat down. They spoke in a language unknown to Suaping. It was definitely not the common tongue, it could be their local dialect. Suaping saw that their hair was bright grey and their eyes were brown, indicating that they were non-locals. Aside from their common features, the younger girl stood out since she had dark golden circles in the middle of her clear, brown eyes. Suaping felt awkward. Those people sitting next to him on both sides obviously knew each other, while he was right smack in the middle. It was really uncomfortable. However, he had been through a lot before. As long as he wasn't embarrassed, the others would be. Suaping sat calmly. The men and women flanking him had to lean forward in order to see and talk to each other. The middle-aged man seemed to have told a joke, and both girls on Suaping's left side giggled. The plane took off moments later, and the younger man on Suaping's right side looked at him and chuckled. "Brother, you look quite impressive. Are you going to the Rumbling Thunder continent too?" He was speaking the common tongue. "You're also going?" Suaping came back to his senses after indulging in random thoughts. He looked at the strangers and realized what was going on. He had not paid much attention to them earlier, but after checking he found that they were at the ocean state even if they were actively concealing their auras. The middle-aged man in particular was a well-hidden void state expert. They were a strong team, it was only reasonable to guess they were going to the Rumbling Thunder continent. "Hee, we're just going to try our luck." "Brother, you must be going for the thunderous dragon tide, aren't you?" "May I know your name?" said the young man with a smile. Stumbling upon chatty travelers was basically inevitable whenever you were out on a trip. Suaping wasn't bothered. However, he was indeed slightly confused by what the latter had said. "My name is Suaping. You can call me by my name. What's that thunderous dragon tide you mentioned?" "Suaping? That's a special name," said the young man. He was surprised by Suaping's confusion and asked, "You don't know?" Suaping shook his head. The young man was dazed and instinctively looked at his partner. Then, he said to Suaping again, "Brother Suaping, you seem quite young. Are you going to the rumbling thunder continent alone? You don't have any partners?" Suaping shook his head again. The young man was rendered speechless. He said with a bitter smile, "Brother Suaping, the thunderous dragon tide is the mating season for the vast sky thunderous dragons, which happens every 8 years. It's the easiest window for anyone to catch them, given that they're significantly weakened by childbirth. We're all here to try our luck." Suaping understood. The reproduction period for dragons was at hand. "You don't know about the thunderous dragon tide, and still you're going there alone? What are you planning on doing?" asked the younger girl with a weird look. The other woman glared at her and said, "Karina, don't be rude." He understood what she meant. The girl implied that he was playing dumb. He didn't explain, simply saying with a smile, "I'm also going there to hunt, just like you. I'm told that they're very valuable." The young man was stunned. He had covertly checked Suaping's aura during the beginning of their conversation but didn't detect anything, probably because the man had a secret technique or a special treasure to conceal his aura. He didn't scan further, since he could be discovered or come off as offensive. "Well, if I may ask, are you an ocean state warrior, Brother Suaping?" asked the young man suspiciously. Those who went to that wild continent by themselves were ocean state warriors at least, if they didn't want to get themselves killed. There were exceptions, like gamblers who hunted with drugs they had bought on the black market. However, it was very risky, and their odds of success were extremely low. "Yes." Suaping nodded. He had nothing to hide, so he never minded telling other people his level unless he was going hunting in the wild. As for his aura, it was simply because he was practicing the fog concealer technique that his father taught him. He wanted to become more familiarized with it. All of them were stunned for a moment after seeing Suaping nod. The young man chuckled and said, "Brother Suaping, you're so young and yet you've already reached the ocean state. What a genius! Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Harry, he is Benson. She's my cousin Annalisa. And as everybody knows, this is the naughty Karina." After hearing his presentation, the girl named Karina stuck out her tongue and said angrily, "Cousin, stop talking like that. I'm not naughty." Harry smiled and said to Suaping, "Feel free to come with us if you don't have partners." Then, he remembered something and looked at the middle-aged man named Benson. He added, "If it's fine with you, Brother Benson." Benson frowned slightly and sized up Suaping, obviously considering. Suaping had already shaken his head before the other answered. He then said, "No, my destination is probably different from yours. Besides, I'm used to hunting alone, thank you for your kindness." Benson stopped thinking once he heard that response. He then stared at Suaping, but he soon withdrew his gaze and turned his head the other way without saying anything. Harry was dazed for a moment. He too realized something upon seeing that Suaping seemed serious, so he didn't try to persuade him anymore. After all, they were total strangers, they knew almost nothing about each other. Harry found it understandable that Suaping would decline his invitation to hunt together. After all, not all the hunters who died on the rumbling thunder continent were killed by the beasts. Suaping saw this as the girl merely gesturing. Harry smiled and also said telepathically, "It never hurts to stay vigilant on a trip. You should learn from her, or you may be easily tricked and lured away while in the Humia Academy." "Humph! I wouldn't have been admitted by the Humia Academy in the first place if I were stupid." Karina snorted with arms akimbo. Harry was amused by her answer, choosing to let the matter rest. They talked about other things while on the way, but it was inconvenient and uncomfortable with Suaping in the middle, so they all closed their eyes and took a rest. There were 3 continents and an ocean between Wofet and Krolin Island. The plane would make 2 brief stops, it wouldn't be a direct flight. After all, Rhea was too large a planet. A plane would run out of gas if it were to fly from the South Pole to the North Pole. Suaping had at one point asked a flight attendant and learned that the trip would take 4 hours. It was definitely a long-haul transit. That made Suaping slightly anxious. After all, he had planned to make enough money to purchase the Thunder Ocean fruit in the last day left once he accomplished the quest. It seemed that he would have to count on his luck. The pet aptitude book to be rewarded by the ongoing quest was obviously 10 times more important than the Thunder Ocean fruit. Time zipped by. Harry and his group took food from a small storage treasure in the middle of the trip. They offered a piece of homemade bread to Suaping, but he kindly refused it. They didn't say anything else, seeing how vigilant Suaping was. In fact, Suaping wasn't being at all vigilant. His resistance to poison was already special grade. He would be fine even if he were to French kiss a fate-state poisonous beast. He simply refused the bread because of the glittering dressing that he thought would be bad for his teeth. Expensive food wasn't necessarily delicious. The 4-hour flight finally came to an end. Whispers echoed in the quiet cabin when the plane was about to arrive. Almost all the travelers who were still on the planet at this moment were going to Krolin Island. Their main purpose was to hunt vast sky thunderous dragons on the rumbling Thunder continent. There were a lot fewer passengers on the plane, but it was still at about half capacity. After all, many planet pioneers had traveled to Rhea for hunting during the Thunder Dragon tide season. Look, Krolin Island is right there. Do you see that? Right there. It's the rumbling Thunder continent. Do you mean the bright purple? A lot of people were discussing. Most of them were settled in groups. Very few of them were lone explorers like Suaping. A hint of purple color could be seen through the plane windows, which was a view of the vast sea under the clouds. All that everybody could see was a thin line on the horizon since it was still too far away. The plane landed soon after. Everybody left the plane in order. Suaping said goodbye to Harry and his fellows and then departed through the terminal hall. He then saw hotels everywhere as soon as he got out. There were also battle pet warriors, many of whom were in the ocean state. Some of them were in the 3rd or 4th ranks, but they were clearly not adventurers, they were working as drivers, waiters, and so on. What a lively place! While Suaping looked at the crowded island with teams of explorers everywhere, a young man suddenly jumped to him and said with a smile, "Bro, do you need a place to stay? The hotel I work for can offer you secret guides to hunt the vast sky thunderous dragons." "Secret guides? Tell me about it," said Suaping, even though he knew that the guy was a fraud. The young man became even more excited after getting Suaping's attention. He said with a smile, "It's a secret that must not be revealed easily. Our boss will tell you all about it after you check in at our hotel. His family has been living here for 3 generations and he knows many secrets that outsiders don't." "I'm certainly not bragging." "Oh, you certainly are." Suaping was laughing on the inside, but he kept a calm and cool appearance as he replied, "Grab my interest with some of the secrets first." The young man was stunned by Suaping's calm attitude, not expecting him to be so difficult to deal with. He looked around and then said to Suaping telepathically, "Bro, I can tell you one secret right off the bat, which is also a piece of advice. The thunderous dragon tide hasn't reached the peak yet. The most suitable day for hunting is 3 days from now. The vast sky thunderous dragons on the rumbling Thunder continent are at their most violent before giving birth. It's very dangerous to go there right now." He spoke so seriously it almost seemed as if he meant it. Suaping looked at him and felt regretful. He couldn't wait for 3 days, whether the information was true or not. "How about this? Do you have a map of the rumbling Thunder continent?" asked Suaping. The young man quickly nodded. "You will receive a map for free if you choose to stay in our hotel." "I won't be staying," you can just sell a map to me. What's the price? Asked Suaping straightly. The young man knew that it wasn't easy to trick Suaping given his attitude. He heaved a sigh and could only say, what a shame. I wasn't lying to you. A map of the rumbling thunder continent would cost you 100,000 astral coins. It's a special offer to foreigners traveling from other planets. We the people of Rhea are always friendly. You're charging me a higher price because I'm from another planet, right? Suaping finally learned what it meant to be a black-hearted merchant. One map for 100 grand? It was a straight-out robbery. Give it to me, said Suaping, not wanting to waste any more time. The young man was stunned, Suaping didn't even try to bargain with him. He quickly took out a pile of maps and gave one copy to Suaping. He said, let me tell you, my map was personally drawn by our hotel's boss. He enters the rumbling thunder continent in special seasons every year and knows the terrain like the back of his hand. You'll definitely capture a vast sky thunderous dragon if you rely on this map. Suaping chuckled and accepted the map. He found that it was indeed detailed, so he simply memorized the map and asked, say, how can I reach the rumbling thunder continent? You're going there now. The young man's expression changed. He said, dude, I wasn't lying to you. It's fine even if you don't stay in our hotel, but what I told you is true, it would be better to go there in 3 days. That's when most people go hunting. Suaping looked at him and nodded. He said, thanks, but I'm in a hurry. The young man was at a loss for words. In a hurry? Are you in such a hurry that you can't even wait for 3 days? He found it incomprehensible. He could only point out the way for him after seeing that it was impossible to persuade him. After saying goodbye to the young man, Suaping walked in the direction the latter had pointed out and heard all kinds of noises on the way. There was a square close by where many planet pioneers were gathered. Does anyone want to join my team to explore the rumbling thunder continent? We have a fate state expert with us. You only need to pay 100 million. Mercenary ready for hire. I'm an experienced void state explorer. It only takes 500 million to hire me. All kinds of loud requests and offers were heard. Suaping scanned them, only to find that most of the explorers present were ocean state warriors, void state explorers were fewer. Only a handful of them were fate state warriors. Brother, are you going to the rumbling thunder continent? We can take you with us, said a middle-aged man who had approached Suaping. Suaping shook his head to decline the offer. The rumbling thunder continent is very dangerous, continued the middle-aged man. Suaping had already walked away. The middle-aged man dropped his friendliness and spat on the ground after seeing that Suaping didn't even bother to look back. 10 minutes later, Suaping arrived at a helipad found at the center of Krolin Island. Military helicopters were parked there. They had special energy formations which allowed them to resist ocean state beast kings. There were also short-distance teleportation formations that enabled flash movement to evade birds or beasts. A lot of people had gathered there. Suaping waited in line obediently and finally entered the rumbling thunder continent after paying 10 million. Suaping ran some calculations, only to secretly click his tongue. The daily revenue from ticket fees to go to the rumbling thunder continent was astronomical. It was such an amount of money that even after the Federation taxes were deducted the earnings were still unimaginable. A Tier 3 planet was already quite profitable. Suaping found it hard to imagine what things were like on a Tier 1 planet. If only there were such a place on the blue planet. Suaping was secretly intrigued. Several 100 million were probably no different from several bucks to an ordinary person when it came to the Lord of Rhea's perspective. Suaping's batch of passengers soon entered a military helicopter one after the other. The helicopter took off and left the island. Suaping was hopeful as he looked at the magnificent sea surrounding the island from his window seat. It didn't take long for the helicopter to reach its destination at a high speed. The rumbling thunder continent was as far apart from Krolin Island as the distance between two continents on the blue planet, but it took the helicopter only 5 minutes to get there. There seemed to be a transparent shield above the entire landmass, there were surging clouds underneath the shielding. Considering Rhea's size, that continent seemed to be as vast as the entire blue planet, or even more. Strange formations and patterns were manifested on the helicopter's surface and melted a section of the shield to later descend. The helicopter flew through the thunderous clouds and reached a desert base where it landed. A lot of planet pioneers had gathered in the base, all of them had made the trip for hunting purposes. Suaping got out of the helicopter, then decided not to linger since the base had only been set up temporarily. Many explorers invited him to join their teams, but Suaping obviously ignored them. Some of those people weren't necessarily there to hunt vast sky thunderous dragons. Suaping decided to leave the base right away. He soon found that 4 men were stalking him, his eyebrows rose coldly. Luck was not on their side, as he was the worst target they could have picked. Suaping didn't have a lot of time, so he simply summoned the Inferno Dragon and sat on one of its shoulders. He then took out the map he had paid 100,000 coins for and compared it with his memorized version. He had indeed remembered it correctly. He invoked fire to burn up the map. In the next moment, Suaping commanded the Inferno Dragon to fly east. He was heading straight to the continent's center, where the nest of the vast sky thunderous dragons was located. A vast sky thunderous dragon with mid-level aptitude had to be different from its ordinary counterparts. It could possibly become the king of all the continent's vast sky thunderous dragons. Suaping quickly flew out of the desert. There was a mountain in front of him, while going further beyond you would see purple and green forests. The top of the mountain was shrouded in a vague mist. After crossing the mountain, he looked at the distant forests and detected that a few beasts were hiding there. Although he wasn't sure exactly what they were, they didn't inspire him to become truly strong. That place was too close to the base. The local vast sky thunderous dragons had probably been captured, even if there were any left. Suaping continued flying forward instead of going through the forests, towards the nest of the vast sky thunderous dragons. Whoosh! Whoosh! A vortex appeared halfway through the journey, manifesting a vortex which appeared in front of Suaping, and a gigantic platypus dragon with dark red scales that also flew out. The last dragon was carrying on its back a middle-aged man wielding a saber. "Boy, stop!" The middle-aged man looked down at Suaping, but his pupils contracted before he could finish. It was as if he had just seen a lightning bolt. Then, his body exploded. After a bam, the lightning that flowed out of his body tore it apart and obliterated it. The platypus dragon under his posterior had also taken a hit. It screamed, before it fell into the forest with a blackened body. The men who had been stalking Suaping and were ready to make a move were all too shocked to continue with their plan, all thanks to that unexpected outcome. Their Void State captain was killed with one attack. What kind of monster is this young man? Whoosh! The Inferno Dragon continued flying forward, acting as if nothing had happened. Suaping crossed his arms in front of his chest and sat on the Inferno Dragon's shoulder with fluttering black hair. It was a simple task to kill someone with a Void State cultivation with the power of law he had mastered. Even though the man was stronger than the Void State warriors on the blue planet, it didn't mean anything when he was dominated by the absolute power of law. Besides, Suaping had named the Law of Thunder Boom. There were many laws of thunder. The reason why he named that one boom was simply because it was his impression of the law. Explosion and boom, what he had managed to perceive was the most direct and powerful law. All the people who lingered after Suaping flew away began to shake uncontrollably, feeling as if their blood were frozen, worrying about the prospect of fighting against Suaping. It's true when they say that all the lone wolves are monsters. I told you we shouldn't go after him. It's too late now. Let's get out of here. We'll be killed if he turns around and attacks us. They were so frightened that they quickly ran back to the base. Whoosh! Up in the vast sky, the Inferno Dragon rushed at full speed like a stallion set loose. A thunderstorm was being brewed right above them, which was a common occurrence in the continent. Some of the vast sky thunderous dragons would even feasted upon the thunder and loved playing in the clouds. Caw! Suo Ping ran into a bunch of featherless birds soon after, which were entirely red. All of them were ocean state creatures. The birds cawed excitedly the moment they spotted Suo Ping, swooping toward him like hungry sharks going crazy at the sight of blood. Coldness flashed in Suo Ping's eyes. The inferno dragon underneath his feet let out a deafening roar with fury rising in its eyes. Roar! The roar instantly shocked the birds, it was like a bat hitting their heads. They lost all of their momentum and dispersed in fright. The inferno dragon was unstoppable as it kept advancing with its draconic gravitas. Ho 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 ho! It was exactly then that a furious dragon roar was heard. The fierce call originated from a place in the clouds dozens of meters up above. It was right in the middle of a lightning strike that an enormous dragon with a wingspan of more than 200 meters swooped down from the clouds. However, very few of them could tap into their full potential and really grow to reach the star state. That being said, their star state bloodline was still intriguing, they would invariably reach the void state the moment they reached adulthood. Those beasts were counted among the best pets of the Thunder family, many battle pet warriors loved them. This one's at the fate state. Suo Ping looked up at the creature, which was at the moment coming out of the clouds and moving fast as it approached him. He became interested after detecting its level. He launched an attack without any hesitation. There was a boom sound, he squeezed his fist, breaking space around him. Then, his fist aura was boosted by his magnificent astral power as it traveled to smash the vast sky thunderous dragon. Roar! The dragon was slightly surprised to see that its attack was deflected with ease. It roared as it felt how powerful the fist was, its brutality surging. It then unleashed thousands of lightning bolts and shot out lightning spheres. Boom, 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 boom. Thunders were echoing everywhere. The golden fist aura exploded in the midst of that bombardment, raising a chaotic energy storm. Whoosh! Suo Ping suddenly dashed out of the energy storm. He simply charged at the dragon with sword in hand. The vast sky thunderous dragon's purple eyes were contracted due to shock, not expecting Suo Ping to dare pass right through the energy turbulence, which could have injured it if it attempted a similar move. And yet, Suo Ping remained unscathed. There was a swoosh, Suo Ping entered the secondary space and then used super acceleration. He then reappeared in front of the large beast in the next moment. The lightning bolts were sizzling, while the vast sky thunderous dragon was surrounded by an invisible magnetic field, which was its defensive skill. Suo Ping was virtually tied up by the invisible lightning bolts since he had trespassed. However, his resistance to lightning had been improved, becoming special grade when he grasped the boom rule. That was why he wasn't at all injured, although he had been constrained by the lightning bolts. He pointed his cold sword at the vast sky thunderous dragon's head. The coldness of the sword seemed to be piercing its skull. Checkmate! The dragon seemed to be terrified as it gazed at the human contender hovering close to his head, it was unable to unleash its energy or skills any longer. It was defeated in just half a minute. Appraise! Suo Ping chose to use the pet identification skill he had acquired from the system. The beast's profile popped up in his mind instantly. Compatibility, 58. Level, Fate State. Aptitudes, Low Mid-Level. It's awful. Suo Ping could only regret his luck. He didn't expect that the Fate State vast sky thunderous dragon didn't even have a low-high level of aptitude. He lost interest in that beast, so he stored his sword. Then, he returned to where the Inferno dragon was and continued his exploration. The vast sky thunderous dragon finally regained control of its body after Suo Ping kept his sword. It was rather stunned to see Suo Ping leave. This human didn't try to kill me? How is it possible? It knew full well that the human being was very likely the one who could have executed it. Why did he simply let me go? Also, he no longer tried to catch them? The beast was at a loss. On the other side, Suo Ping had flown away. He went straight to the central area of the rumbling thunder continent. If only I could perform remote appraisals. Suaping was quite regretful. A lot of time would have been allotted to screening pets if he had the ability. While the system's identification skill wasn't bad, it had a distance and level restraint. He could only remotely appraise beasts whose level was lower than his own. Those equal or stronger than him had to be checked up close. Besides, the highest level he could appraise was the fate state, and only a limited amount of information was acquired whenever he encountered one. Suaping encountered a few more beast kings a few minutes later. There were many other beasts aside from the vast sky thunderous dragons in the rumbling thunder continent, but the latter were the undisputed dominators. However, their population wasn't large due to years of hunting. Half an hour later the Inferno dragon was flying underneath low clouds. While seated on one of its shoulders, Suaping was already able to see the thunderous dragon mountain in the distance. That landmark looked like a volcano that reached all the way to the sky. Its peak was covered by the nearby clouds. The vast sky thunderous dragons with the purest bloodlines lived on the mountaintop where they could easily draw energy from the thunderstorms. Suaping had executed a lot of beasts during the previous half hour. He encountered 8 vast sky thunderous dragons and one of them was stupid enough to once again try to attack when it had already been defeated and then let go. Suaping simply killed it. It was a shame that all the dragons he checked had low or low mid-level aptitudes. Not even one of them had a low-high level aptitude. There was a vast thunderous wood forest beyond the mountain. The forest was purple-colored, which could endure regular lightning strikes and conduct electricity. Those trees were seen as delicacies by some pets, so they could be sold for a really good price. But of course, it wasn't a fair deal to pay a ticket fee of 10,000 just to collect thunderous wood, which was as dangerous as hunting the vast sky thunderous dragons. So, hunting was a better choice. A lot of beasts of the thunder family lived in that forest. Some of the vast sky thunderous dragons also loved it as a place to stay. Each tree was hundreds of meters tall. Some could even grow to be 1,000 meters tall. The old trees among them were important materials to make certain secret treasures. However, such old trees had mostly been taken by tough beasts as nests. Hardly had Suaping approached the forest when he detected a fair number of lurking beasts. He asked the Inferno dragon to conceal its aura, as they were very close to the dragon's nesting places and a huge battle could attract all of them, including the Star State Dragon Kings. Whoosh! Suaping asked the Inferno dragon to fly into the forest and then he sent it back to the contract space, as it was too big to hide. He then summoned the Dark Dragon Hound and asked it to follow him, so that he could merge with it and escape in an emergency. Suaping performed the fog concealer technique and closed all his pores after the Dark Dragon Hound came out. A Fate State beast would hardly be able to detect him, even if it were standing right in front of him. Once he reached the forest, Suaping entered the secondary space and traveled at a high speed. He would occasionally use his super acceleration to leave some of the unsettled beasts behind. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suaping quickly traversed the forest like a conspicuous ghost. It was after moving 100 kilometers when he suddenly detected a familiar energy wave from his left side. After focusing on examining the source in detail, he found that it was divine energy. He was quite amazed, given that divine energy was unique to divine worlds. How could it be found in that place? He quickly concealed his aura and snuck his way toward the source. Soon after, he reached the back of a tree, which he used as cover to look through the gaps left by its leaves. He then saw an extremely thick tree in a nearby open ground. Some of its leaves were golden, which emitted divine brilliance. There was a cave by the base of the trunk. 7 vast sky thunderous dragons were lying close to the tree. Suaping scanned them carefully, only to discover that they were all at the Fate State. The 7 dragons were protecting the tree. This thunderous wood seems to have mutated and is mixed with the air of the gods. Suaping was quite amazed. The tree seemed to be at least 10,000 years old, reaching close to 2,000 meters in height, just like a mountain. While Suaping considered whether or not he should snatch that tree, a drakeling suddenly hopped out of the cave. Even though it was young, it was still more than 10 meters tall. That drakeling was also a vast sky thunderous dragon, but its scales were purely white, much to Sua Ping's surprise. It was a white-scaled vast sky thunderous dragon. The drakeling was in good spirits as it climbed on the tree after leaving the cave. The 7 dragons guarding the tree were alerted by the sound and looked up, but they didn't stop the young one. It was at this moment that an enormous head craned out of the cave. It turned out to be an enormous serpent with white scales. The serpent saw the youngling climbing the tree and quickly slithered forward, catching the kid and making it so that it fell on its body. The serpent was at least 500 meters long, the drakeling could barely be noticed in front of it. The serpent caught the young one with affection in its eyes and was about to take it back to the cave well. Sua Ping's pupils were contracted due to shock. He had decided to appraise the youngling on a whim, only to find that it had mid-level aptitude. Sua Ping was rather shocked. It was only at the peak of the 9th rank, yet its combat ability was already at 12 points. The 9th rank's maximum combat ability was usually an infinite decimal that started with 9.9. It wasn't easy for Sua Ping to train his first battle pet with a combat ability above 10. That young dragon, however, could compare to an ordinary ocean state beast king in terms of combat ability. This was all too easy. Sua Ping came back to himself and felt ecstatic. He had thought that he would have to go to the Thunderous Dragon Mountain in order to find a vast sky thunderous dragon with mid-level aptitude in order to accomplish the quest. After all, a dragon king able to reach the star state would definitely have a mid-level aptitude. Little did he expect to meet one that would meet the requirement in the Thunderous Woods, or that it would still be a drakeling. Whoosh! Sua Ping quickly dashed out when the cub was about to return to the cave. Hardly had he shown himself when the 7 vast sky thunderous dragons around the tree rose and stared at him. The white-scaled giant serpent was also alerted. The affection in its eyes was quickly replaced by coldness and brutality, as it gazed at Sua Ping warily while covering the young one with its body. Upon seeing Sua Ping's look, the 7 vast sky thunderous dragons became infuriated. A human being. He's one of those goddamn hunters. It's merely an ocean state warrior. Finish him off, but don't make too much noise. Countless humans had gone to that place to hunt them over the years. They loathed humans because of this. Sua Ping wasn't intending to reason with the beasts. That world was just a jungle. The vast sky thunderous dragons were actually caged inside that continent and constantly hunted, being clearly weaker when compared to humans. Humans were the weaker species on the blue planet, that is why they had nearly been wiped out. That was the cruel and cold-blooded law of the universe. Sua Ping pointed at the drakeling that the white-scaled serpent was protecting and demanded coldly, "Give it to me, and I'll spare your lives." His words were delivered to their heads telepathically. "Never." The white-scaled serpent sent him a telepathic reply with a soft yet furious voice. It suddenly opened its mouth and bared its fangs. Rot in hell! The eyes of the nearby dragons were cold. The space around Sua Ping was instantly constricted. Their fate state spatial suppression would have crushed him with ease if he were only as strong as those at the ocean state. However, in reality, Sua Ping waved his fist casually and dispelled their spatial attack. He then unleashed a brutal aura, with divine energy bursting out of his body. His black hair was fluttering as he took out his sword. "Don't blame me for fulfilling your death wish." Sua Ping snorted and took action. Fused with the dark dragon hound, plus the super acceleration, he emerged in front of the vast sky thunderous dragon that attacked him and stomped upon it. After a loud bam, the dragon was smashed in the head. He fell to the ground, completely unable to react. Its neck was broken and its head was bleeding. The unexpected impact and noise shocked the other 6 dragons. All of them had detected that Sua Ping was merely an ocean state human. How could he possibly be that strong? His earlier punch had dispelled the spatial pressure, and none of them could have resisted his following attack. The white-scaled serpent seemed shocked and infuriated. Its motherly instinct made it wary of that human. He wasn't at all easy to deal with. Sua Ping turned around and looked at the white-scaled serpent. He was going to attack again, but then he frowned and looked up at the sky. Boom! Hundreds of lightning bolts burst out from the tree crown and struck him. Those lightning bolts were so destructive that they penetrated space like shackles. Suaping narrowed his eyes but didn't dodge. He opened his hands instead, and an enormous vortex appeared in his palm. All the lightning bolts headed his way disappeared into the vortex. Moments later, Suaping emitted electric arcs and seemed to have become even stronger. The other dragons saw this with bulging eyes. They could not believe that a human could absorb lightning like they did. It was a special ability manifested on beasts of the Thunder family. Is this guy a human or a monster? Suaping relaxed his hands and relished the feeling. He already knew how to absorb lightning, and his body was much more resistant than that of any beast of similar rank, all thanks to training in the cultivation sites. An enormous shadow suddenly approached them. It turned out to be an even bigger vast sky thunderous dragon that emitted the aura of a peak fate state creature. The newcomer unleashed lightning bolts in a crazy manner and glared at Suaping. Goddamn human, die now! It opened its mouth and released a lightning bolt that went straight for Suaping. Suaping raised his head calmly. He sensed that lightning bolts were proliferating in the space around him. It was also hard for him to flash away. However, he wasn't intending to dodge. He simply extended his sword and covered it with the law of annihilation. Once he made a slashing move, the lightning bolt that was hundreds of meters long was cut apart. The raging sword aura even collided with the vast sky thunderous dragon's chest and made it narrow its eyes. A piece of lightning armor had suddenly appeared on its body to block the sword aura, but the armor was also broken. The large dragon seemed to be shocked and infuriated. Its mountain-like body landed in front of the white-scaled serpent, ready to protect it. "You're here." The white-scaled serpent looked at the enormous vast sky thunderous dragon with tenderness in its eyes. Whoosh! 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 3 more dragons arrived and landed behind the larger vast sky thunderous dragon. "My father intends to sacrifice you and my son for the sake of the dragon ancestor. You need to leave now," said the magnificent dragon to the white-scaled serpent without looking back. Its voice was heavy and quite emotional. The white-scaled serpent was stunned for a moment. Then, its eyes were filled with tears. "Where can we go?" The entire rumbling thunder continent was the territory of that majestic dragon species. Where could they run to? Besides, human hunters just like that human visitor were everywhere. They had nowhere else to run to. The huge vast sky thunderous dragon gnashed its teeth with sadness in its eyes. It slowly turned around with deep affection and humanity in its eyes. "Go to the grieving frost swamp. It's a place that my people have abandoned. It wouldn't be a place they would easily go to. What about you?" "I have to stay, or my father would never let you go." The large dragon gnashed its teeth and looked at the drakeling's eyes, which were at the moment filled with fright and confusion. It then said with rare tenderness, "Be strong, stay alive, and take good care of your mother." The young one was stunned as it gazed at its father. The leading dragon turned around and roared, "Let's go!" Roar! All that exchange between those creatures sounded like random noises to Suaping, but they obviously sounded sorrowful and angry. His countless fights in the past had allowed him to develop a sense for the emotions in the sounds they made, even though he couldn't understand their animal language. He frowned and said, "I came for your child, but not with the plan to kill it. I can send it back once it's properly trained so it can meet with you anytime." Once again, he sent his words over to them via telepathy. "Get lost. All humans are liars." The magnificent vast sky thunderous dragon roared back, also using a telepathy. Suaping could only sigh in frustration and chose not to say anything else. He was about to take action, but then a huge pressure was imposed on him. 10 or so vast sky thunderous dragons appeared and flew towards him. "Hurry!" The largest dragon let out a roar. 2 vast sky thunderous dragons next to it quickly fled to the other side of the forest with the white-scaled serpent and their young one. "Reinforcements? Where do you think you're going?" Sui Ping saw the vast sky thunderous dragons in the sky and found that all of them were fate state beings. He could only think on his feet as he quickly chased after them. If Sui Ping were to use his flash movements, he would have been surrounded and drowned by that attack. It was obviously done to stop Sui Ping. But he didn't grant the dragon's wish. He dashed out without stopping and flew into the intimidating ocean of lightning. "You're asking to be killed." The strong vast sky thunderous dragon was shocked and infuriated, not expecting the human hunter to be that reckless. "Lishan, stop running." The other 7 dragons that had been chasing it suddenly unleashed a spatial shackle. They separated the tertiary space and used its fragments to clutter the secondary space with them, thus blocking and sealing it. The mighty dragon chasing Sui Ping was held back. Then, he sensed that the human passed through the ocean of lightning and continued chasing its wife and child. Bloody human! Its eyes almost popped out with fury, and lightning was bursting out. Roar! It roared furiously at the other 7 dragons in the sky. "I'll kill whoever gets in my way." "Lishan, you've gone crazy. Stop right now." An old dragon with curled horns bellowed. Then, dark lightning-wrought chains were extended from its body. That was a skill that the vast sky thunderous dragon used to punish their own kind. It also worked on other beasts of the thunder family. *CK off. The dragon named Lishan yelled madly and unleashed dark chains of its own. The rest of the dragons joined in the fight, soon turning the place into a mess. Whoosh! On the other side, Sui Ping passed through the ocean of lightning in the secondary space with minor burns due to the high temperature, but the injuries healed quickly. He detected the white-scaled serpent and instantly chased after it. He flashed quickly and soon saw the 2 fleeing dragons. One of them was traveling through the woods with the white-scaled serpent on its back. "I'll stop him." One of them detected Sui Ping's aura and was shocked. It didn't expect that the human could break free from Lishan. It passed the white-scaled serpent to its partner and slowed down, ready to execute Sui Ping in the forest. "Get out of my way." Sui Ping drew his sword after seeing the vast sky thunderous dragon that was trying to block him, and unleashed his astral power without any mercy. Void Sword. Die! A black aura was swept out even faster than Sui Ping. It traveled a dozen kilometers and cut space apart on the way like a black lightning bolt. The feeling of loss, the dragon was still preparing its skills. It was shocked to see the sword aura that Sui Ping released. This human has mastered loss. It had already detected that Sui Ping was only an ocean state warrior. How is it possible? It didn't have any time to think. The sword aura had already reached him. Fortunately, its skill was finally ready. There was a booming sound, the nearby space trembled, and a myriad of lightning bolts were generated, gathered into the same spot. Those lightning bolts had a highly piercing nature. The name of the skill was Lightning Extremity. Whoosh! The condensed lightning was ejected at 10 times the speed in the secondary space. It displayed the brutal and rapid power achieved by lightning skills. After a boom, the sword aura encountered the lightning attack. Dazzling purple light burst out. But then, the condensed lightning's terrifying light had been annihilated. Following that, the sword aura escaped the clash with the lightning and inflicted a brutal cut on the dragon's chest. All the scales on the dragon's chest were cracked. In fact, the scales that came into contact with the sword aura quickly curled and became pale, losing their vitality. The vast sky thunderous dragon cried as it was flung back. It knocked down an enormous tree, but then its momentum was blocked by a larger tree right after. Sui Ping had already reached the dragon. He was surprised to see that its void sword didn't kill the dragon directly. Such resilience and strength was surely above to that of the heavenly king of good and evil back on the blue planet. Whoosh! Sui Ping didn't linger to finish it off since the others would get away. Again, he caught sight of the white-scaled serpent. It hadn't gotten far yet, so he quickly chased after it. How is it possible? It's already been defeated. The vast sky thunderous dragon that carried that white-scaled serpent was appalled after seeing its partner being defeated that quickly. The serpent also seemed distressed. Whoosh! Since the human was getting closer, the dragon had no choice except to fly higher, above the thunderous woods. Boom! Suddenly, an enormous pressure was imposed upon them from above. The fleeing dragon flinched and stiffened midair. Do you intend to defy me too? The most intimidating and indifferent voice came from the clouds. Then, a dragon that was almost 1,000 meters long slowly flew out of the surging clouds. The dragon's scales were all purple, seemingly made of iron. It had 3 horns on the top of its head, which somehow formed the shape of a crown. See, Chief, the fleeing dragon's pupils were contracted with fear. It didn't expect to see the chief, it was trembling due to the chief's pressure. The white-scaled serpent on its back also appeared to be frightened, it looked at the enormous dragon with fear and despair. The drakeling it carried, however, gazed at the dragon without any trace of fear, it seemed stubborn and infuriated. Lyshan has embarrassed our people by mating with such a lowly creature. Shameless! The king of the vast sky thunderous dragons looked down at the white-scaled serpent as if it were the ruler of the world. There was nothing but coldness in its eyes. You even gave birth to this bastard. Lyshan was supposed to break the shackles, take control of this planet for our people and be lauded as the finest warrior, yet it was corrupted. See, Chief, have mercy. The dragon trapped in the sky trembled and begged for mercy. It was only making beastly noises in the ears of outsiders, although devastating and desperate. You worked for Lyshan and violated my orders. You'll be punished along with Lyshan to be confined in our Dragon Mountain for 1,000 years, announced the Dragon King coldly before it snatched the white-scaled serpent. They must be sacrificed to appease our dragon ancestors and wash away all dishonor. The white-scaled serpent felt like the sky was falling as it looked at the approaching claw. It begged with anguished eyes, please, you can kill me, but please spare Lyshan's child. It's innocent. The claw continued moving downwards without a pause. Bang! All of a sudden, a fire darted close from the void and forced the claw to move back. Hey! The cold-looking Dragon King looked at another side. Swoosh! A human flew out of the forest. It was none other than Suaping. Standing in midair with fluttering black hair, he looked up at the Dragon King with a cold glare. Go away, this is my prey. Bloody human! The Dragon King's eyes became even colder when it saw him. It waved its tail, and a great number of lightning bolts smashed at Suaping from the clouds. The lightning bolts seemed to be enough to drench and destroy everything in the world. Suaping raised his head. His face became pale because of the lighting's illumination, but his eyes became golden. He clenched his fists with magnificent astral and divine power surging out of his body, remembering the ancient gods and devils in his fist technique. How should all evil and injustice in the world be resolved? The only solution was to shatter them with a punch. Roar! Suaping suddenly let out a loud roar. Then, a violent golden fist aura was pushed out, which then collided with the lightning attack. The golden and purple light instantly lit the world, creating a strong energy turbulence above the thunderous woods. The giant trees nearby were bent because of the blast, leaves flew everywhere. The remaining rogue dragon and the white-scaled serpent on its back were both appalled by such a sight. The human was bold enough to fight the Dragon King. How could he be so courageous? And he actually weathered through the attack. Suaping stood like a straight spear in the middle of the glittering lightning. He raised his head and looked at the Dragon King in the sky, still adamant. Hey! The Dragon King didn't look happy after seeing its skill blocked. Although it didn't try its best, it was still disgraceful to have been countered by that human. Go to hell! It flapped its wings with a cold glare, producing a strong wind in the process. It suddenly opened its mouth and shot a lightning bolt from its mouth at an unbelievable speed. It was even faster than the lightning extremity that Suaping had encountered before. However, Suaping was a seasoned fighter. He was ready for the attack when the Dragon King opened its mouth, having activated his super acceleration when the lightning bolt was released. The attack was slowed down in his eyes, but it was still as fast as the lightning extremity. Suaping was quite shocked. It's so fast. Is this the power of a star-state dragon? He raised his sword and slashed out without holding anything back. Boom! The sword aura of annihilation cut the air apart. The void sword collided with the lightning bolts in the dark secondary space. The chaotic energy produced tore the primary space apart, leaving irregular cracks. A black hole surrounded by cracks seemed to have emerged in the void. There wasn't any noise because it had been completely swallowed by the secondary space. However, the resulting energy shocked both the rogue dragon and the white-scaled serpent. So strong! This human has mastered the power of laws. That was usually what those near the star state were capable of. The Dragon King changed its expression and became solemn for the first time. It examined Suaping carefully, only to discover that even though Suaping was hiding his level, he was undoubtedly at the ocean state. How was this possible? It was quite shocked. An ocean state human had blocked 2 of his attacks in a row. It wasn't a regular beast. It had learned from the hunters who visited every year what a terrifying species humankind was. It also knew that the planet was only one of their habitats. Some of the human beings were top geniuses who could fight enemies beyond their level. The Dragon King didn't expect that the human would be one of them. Its demeanor became even colder. All the geniuses were backed by powerful forces that included experts who might even be stronger than itself. Human, you're not from this planet. You'd better stay out of this, leave at once and I won't kill you, said the Dragon King while staring at Suaping. It wasn't a barbaric beast without any communication with the outside world. It chose to give in, considering Suaping's background. After all, human beings were just like bees. If it pissed off one of them, its entire clan might suffer. Although having nowhere else to hide, the clan could still survive while confined to that continent. Pissing off a top expert could result in their extinction. The rogue dragon and the white-scaled serpent were equally stunned after hearing that, not expecting that their ever-proud chief would lower its head in front of Suaping. Suaping was also surprised to see the Dragon King stop. After thinking for a moment, he suddenly realized that the vast sky thunderous dragons were caged in the rumbling Thunder Continent, which was a natural pet base. They could kill human beings and resist, but they didn't dare to fight too hard. They were already imprisoned, so they could only resist moderately. That was the plight of the weaker species. However, Suaping had seen countless species struggling to survive in different worlds. He had just been through a similar struggle on the blue planet. He knew how the Dragon King felt, but nothing could be changed. I can go, as long as you give me that. Suaping pointed at the little dragon. He said to the white-scaled serpent, I'm only taking it away for training. I mean it no harm, I'll bring it back to visit you after it's trained. The white-scaled serpent was stunned. It slightly narrowed its eyes and hesitated. At this moment, however, the Dragon King snorted and looked down at Suaping. Human, I'm offering you a chance to escape with your life. Both of them are sacrifices. You can't take them away. Suaping looked up and said coldly, so, it's non-negotiable. Coldness and a vague tinge of madness beamed out of the Dragon King's eyes. I gave you a chance. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Come and give it a try. Suaping's eyes glittered. A summoning vortex appeared next to him, and the Inferno Dragon stepped out. The Dragon King grew solemn once it saw the Inferno Dragon. Then, it chuckled. Is that what makes you confident? Suaping didn't reply, he simply initiated the fusion. Whoosh! The Inferno Dragon let out a roar. Then, it turned into a streak of light and disappeared into Suaping's body. Suaping became significantly stronger moments after. His bones were crackling, sharp scales grew on his skin and covered his cheeks. His eyes also turned into the golden eyes of a dragon. The Dragon King's pupils contracted. Double merging? How is this possible? It had never seen such a situation before. Suaping had obviously been merged with a pet already. And yet, he could merge with another one. He simply sneered, however, not bothering to explain. The fusion with the dark dragon hound was just its bloodline skill, not a real fusion. The fusion with the Inferno Dragon was the real fusion. Lightning Prison, Catastrophic Void Sword. Sui Ping emanated a golden light while holding his sword, and lotus flowers made of lightning appeared underneath his feet. The auras of two laws circulated around his body and entangled the arm holding the sword. At the same time, a force field emerged behind Sui Ping's back. Ancient shadows passed through the field every now and then, all of them with blood-curdling auras. The Dragon King's pupils were contracted yet again. Two laws. That human could not only perform double fusions but had also mastered two laws, even though he was merely an ocean state warrior. It was unbelievable. It had never seen such a monstrous human being. More importantly, the destructive power radiated by Sui Ping's sword made it feel uneasy. It was suddenly no longer confident of defeating Sui Ping. Lightning Destruction. The Dragon King quickly took action. A dark lightning was condensed and shot from its three horns, tearing through space. The lightning seemed even purer and darker than the secondary space itself. It was so fast that it collided with Sui Ping's sword aura immediately. There was no sound when the two energy streams collided, both filled with the power of laws. Still, the resulting explosion horrified the rogue dragon and the white-scaled serpent. They felt they would be severely injured or even killed if the turbulence reached them. It was terrifying. This human being definitely has star-state combat abilities. So destructive. Is it another lightning-related law? Sui Ping narrowed his eyes and captured a hint of destruction from the broken pieces of law that resulted from the collision. He suddenly had an inspiration. The lightning was powerful, enough to destroy anything. Could he meld it with Boom, his own law of annihilation? If they were fused together, would this produce a new lightning law? Sui Ping didn't try right away, as it required much more than just a thought to master the power of laws. It was just like trying to put your own ideas into practice. There would be a lot of unexpected problems. Sui Ping obviously had no time to deal with those problems while in the middle of a fight. He unleashed his energy again and performed a second void sword. Roar! The Dragon King was even more shocked and infuriated after seeing Sui Ping's new attack. Dark lightning rose on its head again. In the meantime, lightning chains appeared on its claws as it tried to stop Sui Ping. Bang! Sui Ping brandished his sword and performed his void sword, both to destroy the Dragon King's blockade and to restrain it. The two streams of energy collided again, and the secondary space became even darker. Sui Ping's void sword slashed the Dragon King's black chains apart. The attack continued and landed on its wing, leaving a wound that reached the bone. The rogue dragon and the white-scaled serpent were too shocked for words at the moment. The Dragon King roared when it was injured, raising a tide of lightning in the void. Thousands of lightning bolts were shot. Each of them could have easily penetrated the body of a fate-state dragon. Super acceleration. Sui Ping used his super acceleration speed and quickly waved his sword, cutting all the lightning bolts apart. Sui Ping became significantly faster than before in the Dragon King's eyes, almost looking like blurry shadows. The mighty ruler was more shocked than angry, as the ocean state human's performance was beyond its imagination. It had never thought that a human of such a level could be that strong. Kill! I must kill him! Madness flowed out of the Dragon King's eyes. It had no time to care about the force backing Sui Ping. While others may come for revenge if he were killed, there was no doubt in its mind that the human could also destroy the clan if he was left alive and grew stronger. Lightning Domain. Lightning Destruction. The Dragon King quickly released its skills. Lightning flooded out as a prison centered on its enormous body. At the same time, another dark lightning bolt darted out of its head. Sui Ping blocked the attack and then quickly performed the void sword, tearing apart the domain. Void Mincing. The Dragon King roared and activated its bloodline skill. It was an enviable skill of the vast sky thunderous dragons that could mobilize a massive spatial power. Every adult dragon was capable of using the skill. That was also why all the adult dragons of their species were at least void state beasts. The secondary space began to tremble. Then, spatial blades covered in lightning and destructive power were thrown. It was the most powerful move that the Dragon King had created based on its bloodline skill. Hey! Sui Ping felt goosebumps all over his body after sensing the approaching deadly threat. With coldness in his eyes, he gathered golden light with his fingers. He also concentrated boom in his hand at the same time, and punched out. Dazzling golden light burst out, the lightning-covered fist aura created a path in space. The next moment, Sui Ping followed the aura while using his super acceleration and quickly approached the Dragon King. Hey! The Dragon King was shocked and infuriated by the power of Sui Ping's punch. The human knew how to imbue the power of laws to other techniques, which was an advanced usage of laws. Go to hell, roared the Dragon King, gathering a destructive power above its head again. It would not admit defeat yet. It would kill Sui Ping even if it had to fight a war of attrition. That was a star-state dragon. In terms of energy storage, that weak human being couldn't compare to it, at all. Field of Darkness. Sui Ping quickly opened a field, which was the sorcerer divine body that had been awakened when he was with the Golden Crows. The space around him became completely dark, he became significantly faster while moving inside that field. Along with the super acceleration, the Dragon King seemed to be moving in slow motion in his eyes. Die! Sui Ping waved his fist and punched out. He almost reached the Dragon King's head in the blink of an eye, and his glowing fist smashed its chin. The energy above the Dragon King's head was instantly shattered, the latter being flung back. Boom! The enormous Dragon King was knocked out of the secondary space, flying thousands of meters away. Sui Ping roared and stepped out, flashing to where the dragon was to punch it again. There was another booming sound, the Dragon King was smashed in the head before it could react. It fell straight to the ground while it was being flung back. Bang! An earthquake took place in the thunderous woods. Many thick trees were broken, and many of them nearby were also trembling. Go to hell! Sui Ping slashed with the dark void sword. The Dragon King roared crazily once it hit the ground. It suddenly spouted a lightning bolt with its lightning source. Boom! The two streams of energy collided again and raised a massive blast, as if a nuclear explosion had been detonated. All the trees within dozens of kilometers trembled. The battle was so noisy that all the nearby beasts had noticed it. Many of the demon beasts hiding in the woods chose to flee in panic. They had noticed the Dragon King's aura, the dominator of the place. Rise! Before the collision's effect subsided, Sui Ping had unexpectedly placed himself behind the Dragon King. His hands were covered in golden light, as he was ready to perform a double fist of exorcist. However, he loosened his fingers and expanded the size of his hands. Then, he grabbed the Dragon King by its tail and swung it. Roar! It seemed that he had infinite physical strength. Sui Ping unleashed his astral power, it was so intense that he seemed to have become a burning statue. He grabbed the massive tail, then spun the 1,000-meter-long Dragon King and smashed its body in another direction. Boom! Crack! The earth was shaking. Many trees in the thunderous woods collapsed because of the Dragon King. The entire forest was trembling. Some of the planet pioneers who had just entered the woods were surprised by the earthquake, still unaware of the cause. The Dragon King ended up with cracked scales and a bleeding body. It was heavily wounded. Father! A few vast sky thunderous dragons flew over from a distance. The one in the lead was exactly the prince, it had broken free from the other dragons and rushed to help its wife, only to be astounded by what it saw. In front of its eyes, its ever-mighty and invincible father was being smashed by a tiny human being like a dead dog. That would undoubtedly remain as an indelible memory for the rest of its life. The dragons giving chase were also shocked, their jaws almost hit the ground and their eyes were popping out. Burn! Sui Ping invoked the Inferno fire on his golden fists with a fluttering wind. He could use the Inferno Dragon's skills while in fusion status, and the fire he was unleashing wasn't just the Inferno Dragon's flames but also his own Golden Crow fire. The sacred Golden Crow fire had already been extinct for eons in those parts. It was glowing with a sharp brilliance at the moment. The divine fire was quickly spread over the dragon's body starting from its tail, burning its physical body as well as its soul and energy. Hooray! The Dragon King was in agony. It had always considered itself sturdy, but it found the burning insufferably painful. It struggled even more crazily. Lightning emerged on its tail and knocked away Suaping's golden fists. Then, it broke free and tried to fly away. Die! Suaping performed 2 void swords in a row when the dragon broke free. The Dragon King turned around with shock in its narrowed eyes. This human unleashed such powerful attacks consecutively. How much energy does he have? The majestic beast found it unbelievable. Even if it could block the first attack with the power of laws, it would still be hit by the second one. Being in a life or death situation, it quickly tore apart the air and entered the tertiary space. Boom! The secondary space where it used to be was hit and torn apart. The second void sword penetrated the tertiary space and disappeared. There wasn't a single sound, but the void became dreadfully cluttered and cracked. It didn't heal until a long time passed. Suaping was left alone in the air above. He breathed heavily, sweat covering his body. Even though he had dozens of times more energy after he entered the ocean state and his combat ability was further increased after merging with the Inferno Dragon, casting Void Sword twice in a row was still exhausting for him. He had already tried the move in the cultivation sites, which was why he dared to use it in reality. Suaping looked at the place where the Dragon King escaped. The coldness in his eyes was gone. He then turned around and looked at the white-scaled serpent in the distance. Then he flashed to reach her. Whoosh! He arrived in front of the white-scaled serpent like a devil. The white-scaled serpent and the rogue dragon were still shocked by the battle and its outcome. Both of them were too scared to move after the Dragon King escaped and Suaping reached them in the blink of an eye.